we're going to kick it off with a surprise launch. Now, this is something that I am very, very excited to share with you. This is a very exciting surprise launch that I'm doing with Ranger. So a shout out to the team at Ranger, to Alan and Kathy for working on sourcing this for me, to Meg for working on this really cool label. Let me just tell you about what you're seeing right now with rock candy. 10 years ago, believe it or not, back in 2013, I had this idea with Ranger to launch Distress Glitter. And the idea behind Distress Glitter was creating a glitter that had different particle sizes made out of a heavier material than traditional glitter. I also didn't want anything iridescent. I didn't want any metallic fleck. I wanted something that looked like sugar, hence rock candy. And when we launched that, we launched it at a show in Vegas. It was a big surprise launch for retailers. We did it in different colors. We did all sorts of different things. But the fact remains that the clear, the original rock candy, and that rock candy is the name that I gave the clear glitter for Distress Glitter, remained a staple. And even though the colors have retired since then, rock candy remains. And so coming on 10 years, I said to Ranger at the beginning of the year, I think back in April, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to do a celebration of rock candy? I mean, 10 years of glitter, who knows, like you would think that you'd bring glitter into a very glitter congested market and that product would come and go, but this still remains in the line. When we first launched this glitter, we actually did it in two sizes. We did it in a small jar and we did it in this really big jar. And the big jar was only out for its first year and then it retired simply because it wasn't cost effective on Ranger's part. It's a lot of money to hand fill. And I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if we could bring that idea back? And so a shout out to Alan for entertaining the idea. And I said, but if we do that, I want to find a really cool bottle. I want to do something different. I want to design a new label and give it a whole vintage vibe. So this is the limited edition rock candy glitter. You'll notice, of course, even the Tim Holtz Distress, it doesn't have that traditional branding. Why? Because I wanted this to have that nostalgic mercantile look. It is in a cool square bottle. It is plastic, it's not glass, but it looks like a vintage glass merchant bottle with a great black top. I love the typography on this label. So Meg and I designed this. We even did the whole limited edition, established 2013. Rock candy, vintage inspired clear glitter, creates twinkling sparkle. And I just even love down to the vintage typography. The thing about this bottle, this is just a limited edition run, meaning Ranger made a batch for the season. So I don't want you panic buying thinking, oh, here we go again, 24 hours to buy it. No, this is going to be for the season. So for Halloween and Christmas. But that's it. They're not going to bring, it's not seasonal. It won't come back ever again. It was kind of my bargain with Alan that I wouldn't even ask ever again because the value of this is how rock candy glitter comes. So if you already have this, this is nothing new as far as its contents. I want to be very clear. There's nothing new about this. It is the same rock candy glitter that we've always had. This is how it's currently sold in the line. It's part of the mediums line, that crystal clear glitter. This retails for about $8 a jar. This one contains 4 and a little more of these jars. So the value of glitter in here is about $35 worth of glitter, but this is selling for $24.99, 25 bucks, because again, shout out to Ranger for wanting to even do a value thing. Because I'm like, just think of it as a promotion, not as like, okay, well, technically it's $35 jar of glitter. I'm like, just do a value. Do you have to have this much glitter? Yes. No, if you don't use this much glitter, you don't need this much glitter. But if you like glitter, and I do, especially this one, for many things, this is your chance to get it because everyone's always talking about this. Now, retailers were asked to keep this a secret until I just launched it. So thank you to all of the retailers. It will be going on websites probably in about 2 minutes. Everyone was given, from Ranger, we're talking worldwide. Ranger's been shipping this since last week, so that's why I say a shout out to the retailers for keeping it quiet. So in a couple of minutes, whatever site that you shop at, check that out because I know that pretty much most of the independents and online and all of that have purchased this. Again, even worldwide, they're just not allowed to put it on their website until 9:15 Pacific, 12:15 Eastern. So again, this is not this, oh, I need to buy it in the first hour. It's going to be here for the season. So you can decide if you want it or not. I would agree with Mario, though, that I love it. And so what I wanted to do for the first part of the Hoopla is really take you through all of the things that rock candy can do, because sometimes you'll look at a product and you just think it's glitter, I don't really do much glitter, or you think it can only be used a certain way. And there's a lot of different ways that we can create with this product. I'll be honest, I love the bottle itself. That's what I've always wanted. I've always wanted to be able to have kind of this cool jar that can sit on my shelf and look like my studio, like it belongs, because of the whole vintage mercantile design. I love that it's got a nice big top that it's easy to pour out and put back in if I want to. So you'll see, you know, maybe you will get one and maybe you'll use it up before the holiday, and then you might be getting another one. So just know that it will be showing up on sites momentarily, but we're going to get into that. I'm going to hand this off to Mario and we're going to talk about glitter, and we'll just start with that. Isn't that a cool, that's a good setup right there. It's good, even though that little pile of glitter too is right there. So let me just go ahead and set this up. It does not have a sprinkle top because it's not designed to be sprinkled. It's designed to be dumped, and I'll show you that. This is the bottle. It does have a, you know, a little plastic ring when you first open it, but that's the top. So no, it's not a sprinkle glitter. This is a pour and go. You'll see, but we'll talk about different ways that we can apply this glitter as well. All right, let me straighten this up. Okay, good deal. So as I mentioned, this particular glitter, rock candy, it is a clear glitter. So I'll just open the jar. Again, it's the same contents, but you can see that it's very, very sparkly. What's nice about this is that it has many different particle sizes. That to me is very different. Particle size is key because when it comes to glitter, different particle sizes reflect light differently. And so while this looks really sugary, it's because there are large pieces, small pieces, microscopic pieces, almost dust pieces, that gives a very great sugary look to anything, okay? We're going to talk about different ways, from coloring it to using it with embossing to using different types of adhesive. We're going to go through the entire thing. And having this much glitter, you might think, oh, when would I use this much? Well, maybe you will, maybe you won't. I've found that, I mean, even Mario and I tinting, we've already gone through 2 of these, but that's just because of how we wanted to set up. Now that I had this free-for-all, because honestly, even the big jars, I mean, you think 10 years ago, I've asked Ranger forever, like, hey, could we get more? Could we get more? And then he's like, I can't. Like, so these jars, just so you know, this glitter is made in the US. This is not an import glitter. This glitter is made in the USA, as is the bottles, labels, even hand-filled. It is hand-filled at Ranger and hand-labeled, because unlike smaller jars that can go through the machinery at Ranger and be filled and capped and labeled and all of that, because of the design of the bottle and the shape and all of that, they ended up having to hand fill it. And as they fill it, because glitter is obviously a powder, they have to tap it down to make sure that you're getting the right volume in the jar, and then the label's applied. So it is a labor of love for them to do this, and I am so grateful that they wanted to celebrate the 10 years of glitter. Because, I mean, think about that. I remember that first show when we first brought out, they're like, glitter, that's so weird. But it has been a unique glitter, and I've read in the chat, thanks guys, for those that have used rock candy. It is like a creative staple because you can do so many things with it. So the first thing that I'll talk about, and this is where the consumption of glitter really takes over, okay? And this is also why the color rock candy glitter was retired. And that is because you can go in and actually create custom colors of glitter with ease. So now that I have this big jar, I was able to expand my color palette. So Mario and I were having fun tinting. I've always had a couple of tins, but now I've just expanded the colors. So you can see that having a glitter that you can tint and it stays, I mean, it is still that same sugary yum, is really addicting, because as we are full set syndrome people, that is our culture, that is our make, we love to do that. It is really nice that we now have just a bottle that we can just go and go and go. And I'm going to talk about how we color this, demo this, and just give you some different ideas. The benefit of this type of glitter is that it is going to be a translucent glitter. Because we're starting with a clear base, unlike buying, say, a red metallic glitter or a gold or a green, those are all going to be opaque mylar. So when you pour it on, it's covered, it's just green. These, you have to think of this as colored sugar, okay? Just obviously for clarity, it's not sugar, it's not edible, But think of it like that, because if you think of it in those forms, you'll understand its use a little bit better, because having a translucent tinted glitter is really nice to use over so many different things. Thanks, Sally. It's exciting to celebrate that, really. It's like 10 years, like who knew? And then this, like, I love this jar. I just love to hold it and look at it. I remember when we first got the first one, I'm like, oh my God, just look at this. I didn't want to open it, but I did because I couldn't wait. All right. So when you go to color it, supplies are going to be really basic. You need some type of cup, preferably something disposable. It could be a paper cup, it could be a dish, but keep in mind that you're going to need several of them depending on your colors. So if it's something plastic, you can actually clean it out with rubbing alcohol if you don't want to just use a lot of paper cups, but really anything that you want to create, then you're going to need some type of stick to mix. I have an issue with popsicle sticks. Anyone that knows me knows that I have an issue with wood sticks. I don't like them. I don't like to, especially popsicle sticks. Like, I've never eaten a popsicle in my entire life. That's a whole nother saga. So I found these clear ones, but any kind of mixing stick is going to be fine. Then you're going to want something to put your glitter in. You do not need to use storage jars. You could use whatever you want. If you find something, you want to put it in bags, you want to put it in little bead containers, you want to go to the dollar store, you do whatever works for you. I really love a storage system. I like something that's going to have a wide enough mouth that I could get the product back in. So the benefit of this is that these are the same jars that the Distress Embossing Glaze is in, and that is what I put the glitter in because, I like the aluminum top, I like the clear, and I like the fact, again, that when I use the glitter, it's a wide mouth to get it back in. But whatever you want to store it in. As far as the tins that they're in, these are the Distress storage tins. These are the ones that are normally for crayons. So they hold 12 jars, but you could use it for a lot of other things. But that is kind of my storage thing. You don't have to store it this way. You do you. But you want a container because after you mix it, you're going to want it to go into something. Yes. All right. For our colorant, we are working with alcohol ink. Alcohol ink is our colorant. We need a solvent-based colorant. So can you color this with food coloring? No. Re-inkers? No. Oxide re-inkers? No. Ink sprays? No. Archival re-inkers? No. You need a colorant that's going to fully evaporate its liquid. And so that is why you need alcohol ink, because this is a solvent-based colorant that once the color is applied, the vehicle, the solvent, will fully evaporate, leaving you dry glitter. Anything else you use to color the glitter will remain clumpy, wet, and of course the color will come off on your hands. Okay? So I'm going to talk about how we mix and how we create colors, and you'll learn a little bit about colors. So there we go. Cracker Jack, you're not the only one. No, I can't even, I really, don't even get me started. It's horrendous. It is.
There's other people too.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrendous at a guy, you know, really. A guy in his 50s and you can't even touch a wood stick when there's a toothpick in your sandwich. You're like a toddler going, I can't eat this. Yeah, okay. So we'll talk about the mix. I'm just going to push this off just a little bit because I want to keep some of these in frame because I think that's really cool. You guys can see. I don't want to block too much. You guys can see right here. Okay, I'll try to stay in frame. I'm going to work with a cup, a stick, and then we're going to work with a paper towel. Now I see a lot of things about what about mica powder. Mica powder is not a colorant. Mica powder is a pigment. So if you put mica powder in glitter, it will static fuse to the glitter, but it won't actually color the glitter because it's a pigment and not a dye. We need a dye that's going to color this. So here we go. Working with our cup, let's see what color I want to work with. Let's do something. Let's do a little bit. Let's do some, I'm trying to look in here what I don't have made, but I think I'm going to play with some orange just because, well, it's Halloween. So we're going to kick off with some orange. Okay. And I already have a jar here, but just so you can see what it's going to look like. Now, when it comes to working with the whole idea of color, you're going to have creative options. And this is the other thing that I love about making this. And it becomes very addicting. I'm not going to lie, because the possibilities become a little endless. It's kind of scary. Okay. When you go to use your glitter to ink ratio, there is no measurement. It's whatever you want to do. But I will remind you that depending on the container of choice, you probably don't want to mix more glitter than what fits in your container. So if you have a container already chosen. You may want to fill that up. I only fill mine up about halfway just because well, one, I don't want to be wasteful, and I just think like, okay, it sounds good in theory. I have all these colors, but maybe I won't use this color, or I like this color and I don't want to waste it. So I only start about half of my jar. So that would be my advice to you, is once you decide what you want to store it in, maybe fill that up about halfway and just pour it in. For now, for the demo, we're just going to eyeball that. Okay. Someone just asked why re-inkers would not work. I've already explained that. Just because re-inkers are water-based and they won't actually evaporate. The resins will stay wet and the ink comes off on your fingers. Just like whenever you touch an ink pad, it will always be wet. If you touch dry alcohol ink, it doesn't come off because it's dry. So you need something that's going to stay dry. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm going to take some alcohol ink and I'm just going to squeeze some in. Now, can you do it by drops? Yes. Can you squeeze it? Yes. You do whatever's going to work for you. But here's what we're going to start to do. You're going to start mixing it. And when you mix it, you're going to see the alcohol ink wants to clump. But we need to work, I'll say quickly, but not quickly as in like beat the clock quick. Just means like don't do 7 different cups at a time. Just do one at a time because you want to mix it. And all we're doing is we're mixing in that colorant. I'm also kind of pushing it against the inside of this jar to make sure that any color clumps break down. Now, as you mix it, you're going to see that I'll just say the texture of this glitter changes, meaning it's going to start looking like wet sand. See how it kind of gets a little, just like wet sand. I also want to mix on the bottom. See how I've got some clear at the bottom? You just want to keep mixing it up. You don't have to be fast. It doesn't need to have a crazy mixing tool or anything. A stick is really your best bet because you can kind of fold it. You can mix it and push it up against the side. And that's it. Once you have that color done and you're happy with that color, you'll take a paper towel. The reason we're going to use a paper towel is because that's going to take out some of the moisture. Could you use something else like scrap paper or anything? Absolutely. You do whatever is going to work for you. But you'll take that glitter and you're just going to pour it out so it can dry. I leave this here for about, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 minutes of drying time. That's all it's going to take. And then once it's dry, I like to just fold the paper towel onto itself, push down with my hands to break up any clumps, because you'll see when this dries, it will kind of look a little clumpy, but it's already starting to dry. You can see it's already going to this glittery, soft, dusty look, and that's totally fine, okay? That's it. That's the easy part of working with glitter. But I'm going to talk about different ways that we can really change. If you don't let it air dry and you put it in here, it will start to stain your jar because the alcohol ink will actually stain. Not a big deal. It's not going to do anything different, but I prefer to just let it dry, like I said, 10 to 15 minutes. Nothing else is going to happen to it. But let's just talk about working with this glitter and maybe what we want to do, or maybe how we want to alter this. In the colors, I'll just take these two, because these are really great examples that Mario did. These two colors are the same alcohol ink. These are both Monsoon, okay? Someone asked, could you use pearls? Pearls really don't work well for this. You can use it, yes. So the answer is yes, but does it give you a nice finish? No, because what happens is the pearl, the mica powder, someone asked about mica, changes glitter from a sparkle to a mica. So if you use alcohol pearls on this, that pearl will dull the sparkle of glitter. So that's why I don't prefer to use alcohol pearls. I like to just use alcohol ink for this, okay? When you're doing color, like I mentioned, both of these Monsoon, you have creative control over intensity because we're dealing with a dye. We're dealing with an alcohol ink, which is absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to set this aside, get this cup. Mario, can I hand this to you?
Sure.
Thanks. Just because I don't necessarily need the orange there. I'm going to take that cup. So for these, because I do reuse these, I'll end up just wiping this out. And like I said, on this orange, I'll just take a little rubbing alcohol and wipe this off, and I'm good to go. Because it's really about making sure none of that residue dye is there, unless you're doing light colors. You know, if you don't care that you have a little orange in, maybe you're doing a pink, that's fine. But if I did orange and then went to blue, it's going to turn it to brown. So that's why I'm switching cups and sticks for that. But again, if you're using something plastic, you can clean it just with alcohol. So let's actually do Monsoon. That'd be good. This is a great ink. Moss is another really good one. Okay, let me grab a paper towel real quick. just to show you how we can play around with intensity. So color intensity is really fun because not only can you use a specific color of alcohol ink, you can also mix colors. Meaning, if you wanted monsoon, but maybe you wanted it a little purple and you didn't have purple, could you mix blue and pink to get a purpley color? Absolutely, because these are dyes. So everything you know about dyes doesn't change when it comes to tinting glitter. You can mix your alcohol ink colors all you want. Okay, so let's go in and pour some of this glitter in, and we'll take it through some stages. See, I do love this. Just so nice. It's in your hand. Okay. Take a little bit of monsoon. I agree. Twisted citron. Twisted citron is this is twisted citron. Mine is so good. Yeah, it's yummy. I also love this one. This is lettuce. See, I love that like dirty color. And you can, of course, once these are dry, you can sprinkle different glitters like you would any other glitter as well. Okay, we're gonna take some alcohol ink. Just gonna squirt some in there. Now, alcohol inks come in small bottles and big bottles, so it just depends on how much you're going to make and use. But we'll just start by just mixing this up. And so every time you will get a different batch. So here's another suggestion. If you're going to, let's say you wanted to fill a jar, you're running out and you wanted to fill it. If you could either use what's left in there, or often I'll take whatever's left and throw it in what I'm going to mix and mix it all together. And I didn't really notice much of a variation of color. Not too bad. I mean, obviously if it's half and half ratio, you'll get stuff that's a little lighter or darker. But if it's just a little bit, I just throw it in there because I find it challenging to kind of be matchy-matchy. Okay, so here we go. So this is our monsoon for this one. Now I've already noticed that, you know, this particular monsoon, it's a little bit darker than this one. It will dry lighter, not significantly lighter, but a little bit lighter because right now there is moisture in there and you'll see it, but know that it dries lighter. But then it's also kind of in between, but that's all right. Just for the sake of the demo, I'm gonna keep going and just add a little bit. So if you like this, we can go ahead and add this. I saw a comment, remember when glitter is an outdoor activity. Glitter still is, just not rock candy because rock candy doesn't become airborne. You'll see I'm gonna use a glitter duster on it today. That's another reason why I love this glitter is that even in its dry form, it does not become airborne. Because it's a heavier glitter, it always falls. If it's metallic glitter or glitter, that's still an outdoor activity. You're right. Yeah, look at this. Ooh, so good. Beautiful, beautiful. So yeah, once you're happy with that, we're just gonna put it on a paper towel and off we go. It's really, really simple. But you know, again, because we can, I'm just going to throw in a color just because it's a demo. Let's throw in a little bit of patina. Let's see what happens. Let's just throw in a little patina into that blue. Maybe make it a little greener, not much. But just so you can see that I told you it was addicting. Once you start, it is. But the nice thing again is that you will always have matching glitter. You will always, if there's an alcohol ink color that you like. Oh, see, I like this. This actually created more of a, look at that. It actually lightened it. That is surprising. That's really, really pretty. It actually created a lighter than what it was. I was adding a little bit of patina. Probably because of that lighter green in there. Because it would have more solvent, so it would lighten that. Really, really nice. All right, so again, we'll just cap these. It is important, and so when we were doing this last night, because Mario's like, how do you know if it's dry? You could touch it, obviously. I always say touch it. If it's not wet, it's dry. But in the case of this, you'll be able to take your paper towel and kind of move it, and if the glitter rolls on the paper towel, then it's dry. If it still kind of tumbles, like you'll see when I pour this out. See how it's just kind of coming out. It's not really pouring. That's how you'll really know if all of the moisture is out of this. That right now it's gonna kind of tumble. See how it just breaks on itself? But if it just rolls across, then you know it's dry. That's the best way. Again, it doesn't take long, even in humid climates, because we're not dealing with a water-based moisture. We're still dealing with solvents, and solvents evaporate regardless. So there you go. Look at that. See, even in this state, it's beautiful, but when it's fully dry, it's magic. And then you just put it in a container and off you go. That's the beauty. I see a lot of questions about resin. You know, I can't speak for resin because I don't have a resin, and not all resins are created equal. Some resins, depending on their components, will attack a colorant and make that colorant dissolve, and other resins are safe for solvent-based colorants. So really, my advice to you is just to test it. That's the only thing, because there's too many variables in there as far as what resins you use, if it's quick cure, if it's a two-part, and how they work with certain solvents. So I've kind of learned, even when I was talking about doing the sparkle paste and water-based dyes, there's always a possibility. So if you want to do something, test it. Test it with what you have. I wouldn't even waste your time going on Google or YouTube, because there again, unless you're using exactly the same everything, their results will not be your results. So that's my advice to you. Beautiful. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome.
All right. So already from a color, it's really beautiful when it comes to working with this. I did see another comment about alcohol. So yes, if the alcohol works in your resin, chances are it's going to mix in, so it'll probably lift that off of the glitter. So just note of that. So when you're working with this, how would you use it? When would you incorporate it? Well, let's go there. Let's go down that road, and we're going to talk about different ways to adhere glitter, because I think that's also important. There's not just one way to use it. And I think sometimes as makers, we think, okay, well, this is how we use it, and this is what I do with it, and that's fine if you're happy with that, but there's so many different ways to incorporate glitter in a make to have a sparkly effect, okay? So let me move these. I'm just gonna see if I can, ooh, I think I might actually have some space here to move it, just making sure it doesn't affect my light. Look at that, not bad, woohoo. Resting right against the window. All right, good deal. Okay. So how can we incorporate this? Well, the thing to note about glitter is that it definitely changes. So in its truest form, in clear, rock candy is magic, because it is like sugar coating everything. It creates this beautiful dust. When you color it, it also has a beautiful effect. So here's just a couple of examples of showing a black background, and we'll get into backgrounds and inks and all of the other things, but this is a black background with rock candy over the top. So when I talk about rock candy, I'm always referring to it in its clear form, or I'll say tinted rock candy, okay, just for the sake of this. So rock candy, you can still see that it is a black background, but it has a beautiful sugary top coat. And depending on how the light hits, it's almost like diamonds, isn't it? It's really, really nice. Now, if you wanted a black background and you chose a coordinating tinted version, okay, we also get that diamond, but we get a different effect. And what makes this different, because you might be like, well, hello, Captain Obvious. If I want black glitter, I'll just make black glitter. Okay, you do you. You go right ahead. The difference with most black glitters that you buy at the store, those are all mylar based, meaning they're completely opaque black. The fact that this is still black but translucent, I'm able to see the depth of whatever my background is, be that a collage, be that ink, be that paint, and I love the effect of it. So this is now like black diamonds. So very different than Frosty. See the difference? So they both sparkle equally, but this is going to be its truest form, because that's color on color. And this is going to be that sugary dust over the top. Beautiful. So there's no right or wrong or when to use what. It just depends on your look. Sometimes if you're doing something a little bit more vintage and you have a background color, you may just want that dusty color. But for example, for Halloween, maybe you want your color a little bit more dynamic. So that's why you would use a tinted version of rock candy. The same thing's going to apply when it comes to working over stencils. So this is a great example, because I'm going to talk about paste. We're going to cover everything from dry adhesives to wet adhesives to dimensional adhesives when it comes to working with glitter. But take a look at this, another great example. Here I took a stencil, I inked through it. This is a little villainous potion in the background, so you can see that dark purple. And I just inked pretty much down in the middle, and then I left the outer edges a little lighter. You can kind of see. So that mimics the whole thing. For my glitters though, the top is rock candy. So we can see how it creates that sugar, and we get to really appreciate the gradation of color. But the same would apply even if I used a tinted version of glitter. Because even though it's purple, it's not opaque. It is a tinted version of rock candy, which means it's a translucent color. So even though it's all way more purple than here, because obviously if there's nothing, it's going to be the color of glitter. But wherever it comes in contact with the ink, you can see that this color of glitter shifts its color. It's able to modify because it's a translucent glitter. That purple becomes a mid-tone all the way to a dark tone, just like the clear. And that's what I'm saying. Once you understand the purpose of that and the benefit of having a translucent tinted glitter, it's really pretty. Because even if you like a color, by mixing a color glitter with a color of ink, you're getting way more depth in your glittered elements than just purple glitter. Whether this is a background, whether this is anything. So I'm hoping that this little example just shows you the distinct difference of like, could you use clear? Absolutely. Villainous Potion, beautiful. But what if I put purple glitter over Villainous Potion? Well, I'm getting the true color where it's just the texture paste. But where there's ink underneath that, it's also very, very vivid. And you could see that shift. You can see where that color goes from light into dark to the darkest, because obviously the middle is where I focus the ink. Make sense? Okay. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense, because we're going to start going into mediums. Because you have to understand that, because as we go through, you know, they'll be like, well, why did you choose this over this over this? It really is just a creative whim as to why you choose which one to do. So the first one, the most basic I'll talk about, is going to be paste. Okay? So when it comes to working with paste through a stencil, because I'll show that Harlequin, you have some options. If you start with an opaque paste, that's just going to be a white source. Now, your paste could also be colored. You could tint this paste. You could do purple and purple on purple. But if you do white, it's always going to be white, if that makes sense. So your color is going to be super, super intense. It's not my favorite. I don't prefer to use glitter with this, because if you miss any spot of covering your paste with glitter, it will be white and it will annoy you. Okay? It will annoy you. I'm being honest. Translucent texture paste is my jam, because this totally clear, translucent, and it's going to dry to a gloss finish. So that is what I used on this example. Meaning if I miss a spot, you don't notice, because it is clear and it is shiny. So even if there's a little bit of glitter missing somewhere, it's going to maintain its shine. So that is my preferred paste for glitter. Will it stick to anything wet? Absolutely. Could you use it on grip paste and over sparkle? And yes, you can use it on all of those things. But if you're just using it as a foundational piece, texture paste translucent is my choice, just for those reasons that I mentioned. Okay, so let's show you that. And we'll do a different color. We'll do Halloween. So what do we have here? A little ripe persimmon. That's going to be good. And this will work over ink or oxide. I have a little bit of both in my case just for the demo, because you can use either one. Actually, you know what? I have Twisted Citron on the brain, guys, just because of that earlier comment. So you got to follow your muse, because I'm like green. I'm like, no, go orange. I went green. Okay, surface. Because we're dealing with something translucent, your color of paper is also going to impact everything. It's going to impact your ink. It's going to impact your glitter. So if you worked on brown, you could, but whatever you put over it is going to still impact that color, unless it was oxide. Oxide would sit over the top. But if we're working with ink, our green is going to become really dingy and mucky. If you worked over something like a tag, you could do that, but a tag is going to be a little lighter. It's going to impact the color. Well, it'll warm up that green. So again, you have some options, and maybe we'll do both over here. Okay. Grab some stencils. Let's just pick one out. We could probably do Harlequin, but I don't know what I want to do. See, Mari's like, you want all these? I'm like, well, for now.
I know you do. You need them all.
For now I do. I'll do skulls just because, why not? Oh, you know what? I'm going to do bats instead. I know there's a bat stencil. We'll do bats. Okay. Oh my gosh. So many things. I do love Twisted Citron. It is yummy. It is. I know fluorescents and neons are definitely right. I wouldn't say it's either, but it's definitely a bright green, and I do love it. I love how luminous that is. Okay. Gosh, we have so much stuff to demo. It's going to be a blast today. Okay. I'm working on my map, but because I'm going to do some stenciling, I'm just going to take a piece of media grip. Let me find, I should have a big old slab of it somewhere. My slab piece, there we go. I have a piece that's just cut a little bit larger than that. Media grip is just, it's sold in a roll, and it's a very thin silicone mat that if you're working on glass or any kind of surface, it grips to the surface, and it will also grip your paper without adhesive. The thing I like about it, because I know there's a lot of sticky mats, so if you have one, use what you have. Honestly, use what works for you. The reason I did grip is because I am a chronic heat tool user. I like to spray, I like to dry, and so this is completely heat stable. I can emboss on it without it bubbling or sticking to the paper. And then you just wash it. Just wash it with soap and water, and it gets its grip again. And you can cut it different sizes. That's why you'll see, and there's a whole video on media grip as well, but I have it, you know, for A2 cards, for smaller cards, for slimline, even for tags, because I also put it under there for seamless ink blending, so my ink is not grabbing the grip. Yeah, mini ink pad, so I even use it as an ink pad holder, which now that I say it, I should bring out my little piece that I have for my distress pad. So you can have a piece there, which also just grips your ink pad. So that's it, and you just get to use it indefinitely. So once you have your grips cut and you have it stored, I store it in any kind of plastic storage sheet. Those are from Simon Says, but anything to keep the dust off, because if you just leave it out and it's got dust, then, well, that's on you. Well, actually, it's on your grip. Okay, so when we're doing a stencil, it depends on how you want to do it. If it's something that you're going to need to go back and forth, you can tape it, but you can't tape it to the grip. Tape won't stick to the grip, so if that was the case, you might want to move everything up so you could tape your stencil maybe to your glass mat. But because this is just going to go quick, I'm not going to worry about sticking down my stencil at all, because it's not going to be a problem. For ink, I'm just going to use a blending tool just to apply some ink. So we'll just use a little bit of that, and yeah, I'm just gonna place a little bit down. You'll see when I'm doing this, I'm like twisting because I want to do that same thing as far as color. And I'm just one that I hold the stencil no matter what. So I'm not a magnet guy. I know some people love that, and there's nothing wrong with that. You do what works for you. I'm just one that I'm too jumpy, I guess. All right, so I'm focusing more color here, fading it out there, just so you can kind of see that. You get the idea, okay? And while we have ink on here, let's just do the other one just so we can see how that's going to work. Okay, put this down. Good, place this. Same thing. This one's not going to be much different because it's green. It's like green on green, but you get the idea. Okay, so here's some things to keep in mind if you're going to put texture paste through a stencil that you've inked. If you don't clean off the ink, then your translucent paste will pick up that color, meaning when I go and stencil this, any of this area that I wanted lighter, essentially that ink would transfer over this and it would make it darker. So that's why I like to clean up the stencil. Just makes it easier, in my opinion. Now, can you do a million techniques with this right now? Yes, you could monoprint, you can do all that, but just for the sake of this, I'm spraying it with some water, take a paper towel, go over the top, and clean off the ink. That's it. So my stencil is clean because I blended over the top. If you did more than that, you could dip it in water, but that's what we have. So next I'm going to place this down, and I'll position this right back over the top-ish. You get the idea. And we're going to take our paste. Now, we're done with the ink, so we're going to do our glittering. Here's some things to know about, well, glittering. You're going to want something to catch it. A piece of scrap paper works. Some people use coffee filters. You can do any of those things for catching your glitter or what you want to do with your glitter. Okay? I'm just using a piece of scrap paper because that works for me. If you're going to work with certain glitters, like for example a color, have that at the ready. It's not going to go anywhere, so you can even take the lid off if you want. And I've got my jar of rock candy. Now, if you're just working with clear, you'll see throughout that I use it a lot of different ways as well. Okay, let's open this up. Got a bit of press and seal in there. We're just going to peel that off. Okay, and I'm just going to pick some of this up. So this has the consistency of like a mayo or yogurt. Translucent texture paste has that. That's just how this works. It is much wetter than most paste, so keep that in mind. meaning when I'm going to use it, I don't want to overwork it because it will reactivate this ink as well. But I'm just going to take this and go right over the top, working from the outside. And all I'm doing is I'm just spreading it and scraping it. So it's like a spread and skim. I prefer this type of palette knife because it has a nice angled edge. It allows me to spread this and quickly lift it. If you want to use a squeegee tool, you can, but I think the more random you are with this, the better. Okay, so then when you're done, it's all about the dismount. If you have extra, you can scrape it off, but most likely you picked up some color, so I wouldn't recommend that. But you're just going to lift this from the bottom, and then you would place this in water. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I know I have another tag, but I didn't think that through in the sense of you need to put glitter on now, because the wetter your medium, the more glitter is going to stick. Make sense? Okay, so that's what we have. You can see our paste is on there. Nice. We'll take a little bit of clear rock candy. I'm just, can I see? Oh yeah, you guys can see that. I'm just going to pour that just pretty much on the top half, just so we get the idea. This is again just showing you the difference so it's not just purple. And then I'm going to shake it off. There we go. Look at that sugar-coated goodness already. Okay, I'll take this. I'm going to place it back in the bottle. So I just take the paper and pour that back. Okay, I start with clear because if there's a little bit of clear left over, that's going to be fine with green. But if you want to get rid of that, if you have a trash can, quick flick with your finger and it takes away that static charge. Okay, next we're going to do the other half. See that part that's still wet? So same thing, I'm just going to hold this up. Ooh, look at that one. That's yummy. See how it just pours out, just so good. There we have that. Look at, nice. Isn't that good? And you can already see the difference in green. I mean, you can see how this is really that light color and see how it's getting darker in the middle. I mean, it's going to show up even more when it dries, when that paste completely dries, but you get the idea that it's very impactful by having ink underneath your glitter. And there we go. Okay, that's it. See, even the, and I mean, I don't want to say anything because I'm sure somebody's going to live in some high static environment and go, that's not true. But for whatever reason, I find that my tinted glitter doesn't have nearly as much charge as just clear. So I don't know if it's the resin and alcohol ink, but that's what works for me. And we're going to let this dry. Now, I don't like to force heat paste of any kind, simply because it's going to cause it to bubble or blister. So just let this dry. It's probably going to take, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes, just depending on where you live. If you have a fan, even to circulate the air, that also speeds up the drying time. But I would avoid a heat tool just because you're going to get a bubble blister. But hey, that might be what you want. Okay? So I'll set that aside. And let's just do the tag real quick. It's going to be easy. But first, I got to take care of my stencil. So my stencil I just had sitting in the water. I just have just a tray. We call it the lasagna pan around here. But it just was sitting in, it's just room temperature water, because that will essentially just dissolve your medium, and then you can take a paper towel just to clean off any of that excess. So instead of like wiping and scrubbing your stencil, that's just what I like to use. And there we go, we're ready to go. We want our stencil to be dry, just dry to the touch. So let me just make sure it is, because if it's not, it's just going to make our inks bleed. Okay, good enough. Move this one off. And like I said, there's not going to be much difference on this tag versus the white, but you'll notice some. So we'll just kind of line this up a little bit. Take our palette knife, and you don't have to stencil the whole thing if you don't want to. If you just wanted, you know, a little bit of glitter in different areas, just kind of go in with little skippity bits. I'm going to do that on this one, meaning I'm not going to spread it from top to bottom. I'm just using, it's what I love about this angle. See, I'm applying from the bottom, but then I'm quickly angling and using that little angle to just skim the top. Simple. So I always say it's like a little sports car palette knife. It is my favorite one. Okay, lift this off. Now here's another tip. Let's say you're using this and you know, you have fingers or maybe even fingernails that can't grab, or no fingernails that wouldn't grab. You can use the end of your palette knife to just lift that up as well. So whatever works, it's totally fine. Okay, take that off. That's going to go in the water. Palette knife, you just wipe off. Again, I'm using all of these scrap paper towels that I use to dry. If you clean off any medium when it's wet, it just wipes off. If you don't, then you have to actually, you know, use alcohol or whatever to clean it up. Okay, so this, I'm just gonna press, and then seal. So we need to get this to the bottom of our medium to get rid of any air that's trapped in. See that little air bubble? So I'm gonna lift this up so I can press, and then fold that over the side and put the lid on. Press and seal. Do you have to use press and seal? Not if you go through your mediums quick, but if you don't use them quick, and we live in Arizona, so it stays pretty dry, it will extend the life of your medium significantly. Significantly. Okay, let's bring this back in. A little bit of glitter. The other thing I like about this is if I get glitter or powder on it, it's a quick rinse with water, and that's it. That's a simple way to clean glitter off of the media grip. Okay, clear glitter back. See, that's why we just needed that big mouth, so you can get it right back in. Okay, I'll use the same citrus. There we are. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. A little bit here. Okay. Now, some people like to pack in their glitter. Let me just tell you why I don't prefer that. I'm not saying you can't, you do you. But here's what I don't like about packing in glitter of any kind on anything that you work on. So glitter, when it sparkles, it's just because those little fragments, those little particles are hitting the light. And the way these little pieces hit the light, and they hit it differently, that's going to make your background more sparkly. So imagine, especially like on paste or anything sticky, that when this glitter, I'll hand this over to Mario. Thanks, Mario. When this glitter hits its adhesive, it's falling in different places. Some are falling flat, some are falling at this angle, this angle, this angle. So if you can leave it at those angles, that means that when the light hits it, see how it does twinkle like diamonds? Because you have so many different, think of like a diamond ring, like all the facets, that's why they have so many cuts in there. It just hits the light differently. If you are in a habit of packing down your glitter, all of those pieces that would normally be different directions, you're pretty much squashing them down. So it will still sparkle its glitter, but it won't sparkle nearly as much because you're not letting the light hit it in every angle, only a few angles. So just another little note that you don't want to smash everything down if you can avoid it. Okay? So that is going to be translucent paste with your rock candy and your tinted rock candy over something inked. Pretty easy. Now, does it have to be over something inked? No. If you're like, I don't care about the color shift, could I just use paste and glitter? Of course, yes. I just wanted to show you the extreme version, I guess, of an idea. So far, so good? Mario, we're doing all right? Okay, just trying to pay attention when I can, watch the chat when I can. Okay, the next one that we'll talk about is, what if we wanted something sticky, overall sticky, meaning we want to just glitter something because just step back, watch me sparkle, okay? There could be things everywhere that we want to add glitter. And I have to say, this is the time of year that you go everywhere. Someone said, does the glitter flake off? Only if you don't have enough adhesive, but you always want to rub off anything that doesn't stick when something dries, but anything would flake off if you scratch it, but no, it won't fall off. But keep that in mind. So for example, I'll show you on this one. When I'm done with glitter, I'll take a dry brush. You'll see in another demo, but because it's asked, I'll answer it. I just go in with usually a coarse brush. I love the collage brush, and I just brush over any excess that would come off, but this doesn't come off. But if you were to go in with a scraper, you could scratch it off. But yeah, it's nice. Nice, because everything's gonna have a different grab. Okay. This time of year especially, Halloween and Christmas. So when I say this time of year, be mindful of everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, there's going to be something cool to look at. And usually when you see it, your first instinct might be like, ugh, okay, I love Halloween. And I love these. And if you've been to a dollar store or they're everywhere. But you can often find these garlands that are just yuck, okay? They have jute tied around their neck, and there's nothing exciting about it other than the shape. The shape is very exciting. And this one happens to be a pretty cool color. I didn't do anything to them. I like the grunge, but sometimes you can find them green or anything. If you wanted it a color, you could paint it. You could spray paint it or use regular acrylic paint, whatever you want. But I love the grungy look of this. What I love more is a sugary sparkly version of this. This may not be your jam, but he's very cool if you do a shabby Halloween, or maybe you wanted to put him in something that has some floral elements. Maybe you're doing Day of the Dead. There's a lot of different things that, that you can alter. And so this could be anything. I love to go to the dollar store and look at ornaments because there's so many things that are often not color nice, but the shape is really good. And I love the ability just to add glitter. Now, the trick to something like this, because obviously he's got a rib cage and I mean all sorts of different pieces, could you go in and brush it? Yes, but if you have to brush glue, if you've ever taken any kind of glue, be that collage medium, Mod Podge, whatever, and you're brushing, it's like you're flipping it around everywhere, you're waiting, and then by the time you get down here, this is dry. I'm going to show you a quick way that you can put glitter on anything dimensional. That could even be a pumpkin, right? It could be all sorts of things with ease, okay? So yeah, I just saw someone say glow-in-the-dark sparkle. So if he was covered in glow-in-the-dark, maybe you had glow-in-the-dark paint, or maybe even wanted to put a little bit of glow-in-the-dark paste first and then glitter him, yes, the glow would go through this glitter because it is clear. Okay, so here's what we're going to do with this guy. We're going to take something that is going to protect our work surface. In this case, it's my trusty splat box, and mine has seen better days, but I love it. I use my splat box until things leak out of it, which normally takes probably a couple of years. So it's very well loved, and I don't mind that it has all this stuff. Some people have converted their own boxes, so you do whatever works for you. These are through Stampers Anonymous, but really, if you have something that works, use it. I just like something angled so I can get in. I don't like to have to always work down from the top. And you'll see, especially with the skull, I love the ability of being able to work this way, or if I'm splattering, I love that high edge. So that's why you see stuff kind of everywhere. Here we go. Let's put that right there. So for this one, I'm going to line it with something a little nonstick because it gets a little messy. And this was a tip I learned from Paula. And that's just, it could be deli paper, it could be wax paper, something that's not super porous. So I don't use a paper towel for this one just because I might use some of that glue that's going to be in there, okay? I also want some type of trough. I'm going to happen to use that same container that whatever I'm glittering is going to fit in. Now that could be a pan, that could be a box, that could be whatever you want, but you need something that you could get the glitter in and around your object. So in that case, it's going to be a plastic container. And for my adhesive, I'm going to use resist spray. Now resist spray is designed to create a resist. You could spray it onto things. Again, there's many demos. Think of it as like a liquid, a very fluid, glossy accents. Okay, so it's like milky. It's very shiny. It's very, very sticky. So it works as a great glue while it's wet. So that's what we're going to use. The other thing to keep in mind is this nozzle is temperamental. If you don't clean it right away, it's going to clog. If you look at it wrong, it's going to clog. So my advice is to take care of this sprayer. As soon as you're done with it, rinse it. You can also pick up some replacement sprayers. Ranger sells these. It's always good to have one on hand because you can switch them out while you're cleaning this. But if you let this dry completely and you forget and you go to use it and you think, oh, but I wiped it off. We're talking a full clean. So I'll show you how to do that in the bucket because we get a lot of messages about that. So what we want to do with the resist spray, it's going to come out kind of this weird bluish stuff, I suppose. You'll see when I go to spray it. I always like to I have to spray it off first because I've always cleaned mine. And usually my first spray is kind of watery. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to soak this guy in glue. I prefer to work from the back to the front. Reason is I care more about this side than this side because one side has to sit in its own goo. So I would just prefer the side that I don't necessarily care about. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray this. And you just spray, spray. You can see that it kind of comes out. See that like bluish color? There you go. So you can see where it's going. That's the other reason I like this. Okay, the bottom of his feet. Then I'm going to give him a flip. Go in, spray. I want to get the top of his head because I learned when I did my first one. I didn't really have a lot. All right, there. I'm going to go up his rib cage. So see, I like that I can angle in and go up his rib cage. And his feet, done. Okay, now this, because I am done with it, I'm going to take this out and,
look at that
and I'm going to put it in water right now. So I've just put the whole thing in water and I've set that aside because this is going to give me a little bit of time. So for my glitter bath, I'm going to start with a foundation of glitter because we already know there's sticky stuff on the bottom. So why not just stick him in the sticky stuff? Perfect. And then I'm going to give him a top coat of glitter.
Shower.
Yeah, it's nice. And I'm just pouring this. I mean, again, super nice to have a big jar of it now. This, could you use it for something else? If you had smaller things that you could roll around in this stuff, as long as it's white and milky like this, it's still going to be wet because it will dry clear. So that's the other benefit is if I'm doing something, I'll often roll around in this, right? If I just have a little area, or might pick some up with my finger and fill in the blanks. But that's really why I prefer to use a wax paper versus a paper towel, because the paper towel is going to absorb that resist spray and then it becomes very, very gooey. And then the problem is the skeleton will stick to the paper towel. Okay. So now I'll just shake it up. Just want to shake it around because I want whatever glitter is going to be around. If I think I missed a spot, like right there on his kneecap, I'll put that on there. Again, it's just dry glitter. Give it a little shake, and he's done. Kind of like a little shake and bake, only minus the bake, because we don't need to do that. Drying time on this, I'm going to say, is going to be about, I'd say 10 minutes, meaning fully dry. This is dry enough to take out and to set on a paper towel. You can see, look at him. He's very sugary. But right now, can you see all the the white buildup right here? That's still the resist spray. So those kind of white areas, you're still seeing the spray because the spray hasn't totally dried. So could you let it dry in here? Yes, absolutely. But I just like to take it out because any of these little nuggety bits that I get, I just smash them with my fingers because then it just goes back to regular glitter and I don't have to waste any of it. So that's the other reason why I like resist spray versus something really thick. And then I'll just use the corner of this to put it back into the bottle. So again, think about that when you're choosing your containers. If you have something square, rectangular, you can always get a funnel. I'll be honest, I normally have a funnel, but just for the sake of this, I'm going to use just the corner of it. All right. I'll probably go back and use this container again. Okay. So there we have it. So far, so good. And we have a sugar. So think about pumpkins, acorns, any of that stuff. The other benefit of this is, let's say you've colored it with something other than spray paint, because these are the same, just so you can see exactly how it's going to dry. See how this one is definitely more white on the left, but how the grunge is showing up, because when that resist spray goes totally clear, it shows the color. But yeah, you can do painting, you can do inking, you can do all sorts of cool things when it comes to working with these elements. So definitely keep your eyes open for ornaments and whatnot, because I just think they're a lot of fun. And this is on there. I mean, it's definitely just, it's so durable when that resist spray gets on, because I think it's so fluid, it goes all the way around it. Consumes so much easier than painting, right? So much easier. So definitely great for Christmas as well, but don't forget, sugary skeletons for Halloween for the win. I'm gonna take this guy and he can just dry over there. He's fun. Well, just because I like to hang out with that skelly. Okay, if you have glitter on your work surface, which I do, you can use a cloth, you can use a dryer, or if you have some type of Swiffer, you can easily take that up, because that's the easiest way to get glitter off of glass. I'm just gonna shake that off. But again, use whatever works. But if you don't like glitter just because it gets everywhere, I like that because it does seem to pull it. So now I'm going to take this tray. I'm going to take my lasagna pan. Didn't plan on doing this, but this is what I said about the Hoopla. You kind of, anything goes. So here is the infamous pan. If you watch lives long enough, you know that by mistake, once, I referred to this as a lasagna pan, as if Mario makes lasagna from a pan. Never. And it stuck. It wasn't lasagna, but I don't shop and it has something food, but it's Costco. Anyway, I like disposable trays that are the size of what I work with. And this is a great stencil tray. So if you work with stencils, be that square, be that whatever, you want to have some sort of disposable tray that you keep in your craft space, because it is the easiest way to clean your stuff. When you're done, throw it in the water. Go back and clean it all later. Don't sit there and try to like baby wipe everything when you do it, because, well, one, you're going to pretty much damage your stencils if you catch it. And two, it just keeps you going. We didn't have to really stop and clean. We didn't have to do all of that stuff. So here's my sprayer that I made sure that I threw in the water. Normally I would take this into the sink, and here's what I would do. I would have the water running, so the little tube is pulling in the water, and then I would spray it. So you're going to see that white stuff coming out? That is all the stuff that is still in the sprayer. So if you're working, often I'll take this out because I know I'm going to clean it, and I will use my last 2 or 3 blasts just from the nozzle, not in the bottle. I didn't want to do it for the demo because it was just, I thought it'd be too hard to show on camera, but I would have normally taken it out and I would have given Skelly a couple of more sprays until there was no resist spray. Then I would go and rinse it, because then all you're flushing through is water. Does that make sense? And I just spray it until, because see, all that resist spray would have been stuck in there, even if the bottle's closed. And then I just do it until the water is clear, like that. I mean, it's cloudy, but I know that it was clear coming out. Pump that so it's empty. And then I'm going to put this on the top. And then I just cap it. I just cap it while it's wet because it leaves a little moisture in there. I think I got that tip maybe from Dina I saw, and I'm like, that's a really good idea. Like no reason to dry that off. Just keep a little moisture in there, because if you did miss a spot, it keeps it from crusting up. Anyway, that's what we have. Now, our stencil's also in there, and it's a water-based medium, so even though it's sitting in the water, it's not making my stencils that are in here sticky. So don't think that. But I'm going to take this out just so we can definitely change the water. There's my stencil that had the paste. I'll place it on a paper towel, and I'll put a top one over the top. There you go, Mario. Thanks. Yeah. But you could use that same water. Again, pretty simple, okay? Really, really simple, but you have to flush it through. I know probably in the earlier days, and you might even be able to find a couple demos where I'm like, oh, you just wipe off the nozzle. You can, but it's either gonna get along or it's not. And I found that some days that worked, and other days I was like, darn it. And once it's done, I just don't think there's any way to resurrect a nozzle, to be honest. It's just because people go, oh, soak it in hot water and all that. The fact that Ranger sells these and they fit really any of your sprays, the mica sprays, dilutions, Dina's, it's always good to have some of those. But I love that tip of just leaving some moisture in there, because it does keep that from drying out. So maybe you have another spray medium that's going to be helpful with. Okay. So far we've talked about working with paste, and we talked about working with a spray, which is good. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about how we do smaller things, because we did big, and we're going to do small. Now, could you do small the same way we did big? Yes, of course you could. You could do whatever. Oh, thanks, Mario. Here, let me. I'm gonna. Oh my gosh. Whenever I have a tray of water, I get a little nervous in my demo, especially during the live, because it could become Catastrophe Canyon over here. Okay, that's good. We're working. So if you wanted to do this the same way with resist spray, absolutely you can. No, you don't have to worry about dumping that water down the drain, because it's a water-based medium. It's not a chemical, so it's water-based. It will totally dissolve. When it comes to working with smaller bits, maybe that's embellishments, maybe in this case it's Idea-ology confections, I like to go the glossy accent route. Now again, could I just take resist spray and a little brush? Absolutely. The reason I'm going glossy accent route is it's a little thicker medium, so it's going to give me more of, oh, I don't know, something a little bit more sugar-coated, thicker. So it gives a really nice effect to this. But like I said, you could do either way, whatever's going to work. Could you also just use a collage medium or Mod Podge or school glue? Use whatever's going to work. I'm just sharing with you the things that I like and why I like them. So if it makes sense to you, perfect. I'm going to go back to a little piece of paper just in case I need it. I'm using Idea-ology confection, so we'll talk about this because I've gotten emails since we launched this in August, people looking for certain things. So the evolution of confections. Last year, confections came in 2 packs. Candy corn, because it was new and I loved it and I was so happy to get a pack of candy corn. And then these black and white sticks and little mints. These did not come back this year like this. This year's pack is this great little assortment. We also added orange and white candies. You get less pieces of things, but you get more of a variety. So if you are looking for just candy corn or just the black and white candies, because you can alcohol ink these, you can use markers to tint them. I've seen these still available at retailers, but this is how confections is moving forward. It will never be like the main pack. So I just wanted to point that out. This is the one that is available. The candy corn was really fun. I'll bring this guy in because Mario has it on his desk. If you guys remember last year when we shared this, this has tiny lights in it. Look at these little light up candy corns. How cute is that? So this was just taking, because these are made out of clay, you take a tiny little drill bit and you drill through just the top of that. And then you take tiny lights, these are Idea-ology tiny lights, and you just stick the tiny light in the hole. You don't see, there you go. You can see the little holes drilled because
I love that ghosty.
it's cute. It was a fun make because the lights, you can fold them on themselves and that little bulb just kind of fits in. And because these are a translucent clay, they really have a great, so we just wired him around this little ghosty, added a little adornment, but he was fun. So yeah, I made this last year. That was Idea-ology as well. And Mario just brings them out on the desk. But that's another fun thing to do with confections. You can just drill them because they are clay. Not a pokey tool. You actually have to like get the material out of it because it'll self-heal. If you just poke it, then the hole closes up. But it was really easy. Just a little Dremel tool, but quite fun. So maybe you're not even going to wrap a character. Maybe you want to put it on the mantle or around a frame. But super cute. And these are just clear tiny lights. I would imagine if you had different colors, the candy corn would be different colors. But I like it like this.
Cute.
He's really fun. And he could be sugary too. So what I'm going to, thanks Mario. What I'm going to share is that you could easily do the sugary version of it as well. Okay, so this is just a little Idea-ology spoon. We have Idea-ology silverware. If you follow lives, Tammy B uses forks. It comes with forks, knives, and spoons. But this spoon is so good for little elements. If you have big fingers that can't dig, a spoon is going to be your friend. We'll just take a few confections. I won't do a lot, but I just want to share that it is easy, but you have to kind of get in your groove. Am I right, Mario?
Yes, you really have to.
Because it can get very frustrating to where more stuff is on your fingers than on the actual item you want it to be. And we're laughing because when Mario tried this, he's like, this is not for me. No. He's like, it's not happening. Okay, so like I said, I like glossy accents just because it's going to dry really quick. It's going to dry shiny and it's very, very sticky stuff. And I'm going to take some rock candy and just pour it into something that I can throw the candies in and easily take them out. So a portion cup is going to work, whatever. And I'm just using it in its clear state because to me that's, if I want to sugarcoat something, this is really just like a container of sugar. So far, so good. Okay, on the glossy accents, we're just going to squeeze some out. Now you could put it on this mat, that's totally fine. It's easy, it's going to wipe up easy, but it does get, this thing is, it gets to be a sticky mess. So I'm going to squeeze out a pretty good amount of glossy accents. Then when you're done with the glossy accents, give it some good thunks on the table without the lid on, repeatedly. That's going to pull that, see, it pulls the glue from up here, see it down here now, and that keeps it from clogging up all the time. Doesn't mean that it's foolproof, but it works 90% of the time by giving it some thumps to get the glue from not sitting up in there to dry out. Okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to do like the glitter and the dump and the glitter and the dump. And once you go, your fingers are going to get really sticky. So you're going to need a baby wipe just to clean those off. So I'll just take my finger. I'm just going to dip it into the glossy accents and I just roll it around. I found that a brush is just, it doesn't seem to work really well. And then I'm going to drop it and shake it up. Then I'll pick up the next piece. And it gets a little slippery, but then at the same time, it gets very sticky. It's a hard thing to kind of figure out. Just roll that, flick it off your finger, shake it in there. And you just keep going. And if you run out of glossy accents, you get more. But what you're going to notice is that your fingers quickly become sticky, where, see, the things aren't going to want to dismount. And that's why you have to make sure that the glossy accents is wet when you try to do the dismount in the cup. Because that's, see, it just rolls like a little churro. Look at that. Okay. So I'm just gonna rinse my fingers off in that little water bath over there, just to take these out. Because once your cup gets full, you need to take it out so you have room for the other things to move, and that's where the spoon comes in. It's really simple just to take that little spoon, take off the excess glitter, and you can just take it out. But if you can use tweezers, you can use really whatever works. And there you go. Look at that. So good. And this is already dry. Like that's done, dry, glue it onto your project. You're off to the races. So it's very quick when you use glossy accents for this, especially, if you're making a card and maybe you want glitter brads, whatever it is, you can glitter anything with glossy accents. It's just a trick to just make sure that the glossy accents actually has to stay wet on your fingers while you're doing this so you can release what you're coating. That's the trick. The problem is, like, if you don't have enough, see how much is on my finger, and you can't lather it on, you're toast. But if you have too much, then that's even worse because then it becomes really, really clumpy.
It was much easier with the spoon.
Yeah.
It was just my fingers couldn't grab it in time.
And then the other
Made it
thing,
super easy.
it is easy. I like it. The thing to remember also is if you clean your fingers off while they're wet, then the medium doesn't have a chance to dry. Because if you sat there and you did all of them and you never cleaned this off, you'd be pulling glossy accents off of your skin for the rest of the day, and that might drive you crazy, but just something to kind of keep in mind. Okay? So you'll see I'll do that throughout pretty much the whole day. When I have a lot of stuff on my hands, I just wipe it off, because if you clean it while it's wet, it comes off. If you let it cake on there, and some people like picking it off. Paula loves to pick off collage medium for days. No, I'm kidding. It just happens because when you're in the zone and you're like, oh, I don't, and you have collage medium, crazy. All right, so I'm just gonna look at my glitter contents. Should still be clean, which it is. Should be clump free, which it is. So that means it can go back into the jar. So it's really nice way. And I just find that I use whatever's flexible. So portion cups are an easy thing. Okay, so that was glittering tiny things. I'll show you these. They're so good. Look at that. Look at that sugary goodness. Isn't that great? You've seen some Tammy B make. She loves doing things with confections, but man, it just gives it such a great feeling. Could you do this with color glitter? Yes, but just know that then you wouldn't have any white space. It would all be color. But it is nice that just this glitter, and you'll start seeing it. Like the more you pay attention to, I'll just say the dust around, the more you'll see what I mean about it being different particle sizes, where it's not all that big piece. There's a lot of tiny pieces and dust. I don't know if it's 3 or 5 different particle sizes. I don't know the proprietary terminology for this, but I know that it is various sizes, and that's what gives it this perfect yum. It is. It's a perfect yum. Okay. So far, so good. Moving on. So then this, I've just fold up, throw away. I've got my little cup and bowl and spoon, and there's a lot of stuff. Cover a lot of stuff in a little time. Doesn't take much. So here we go. Okay. Have that. Perfect.
You're so
Okay.
organized.
I know.
You really got a beautiful space.
I thought I figured it out. I wasn't sure if it's going to work, but so far so good. Have a little dump bin. Okay. So next we're going to talk about this and stamping, and that's why I wanted to kind of save that till now, because it was a bit of a panic and a bit of a learning curve, and I will say that I don't want to say I wasted, but I did spend about a day and a half trying to figure this out, and then I remembered something. So when it comes to glitter, one of the things that I've loved to do for years, if you've been to any of the old Carson shows or any of those demos, I've always loved to show this technique because it just kind of has that wow factor, which is adding glitter to a stamped image, okay? Rock candy in particular, because it's clear and you can use it for so many different things, and it creates just this wonderful nostalgic sparkle. And for years, I've used a product called sticky embossing powder that Ranger does. It's essentially like a powdered glue where you apply it, you heat it, and it gets sticky. And I know there's other sticky powders out there, so if you have one and it's not this one, definitely use what you have. But if you don't have one, or like me, you're almost out of it, there needs to be an alternative, because Ranger ran out of this, I think it was last year, and they've not been able to get it back. Manufacturing has changed. They can't source the same raw materials. They can't figure it out. Not to say that it'll never come back. I know they're working on bringing it back, but as of the Hoopla, it wasn't available. And I'm like, well, I need to kind of figure this out. And I was trying to come up with alternatives. And I remembered, I think it was a year ago, when we launched the mediums. We launched all the different mediums for distress with texture paste and all of that stuff, that Stacy did a blog post about frosted crystal. Now, frosted crystal is a whole different dynamic. It's an embossing powder, but it's designed to give a frosted finish. Like when you heat it, it turns matte and it turns frosty. And you might have seen it over Idea-ology things, over paper dolls, over layers. I know Susie's used it because it dulls it. It gives it a beautiful frosted look. But Stacy's tutorial was actually using it with rock candy, and she applied it and she put her rock candy, and she's like, oh, I got rock candy to stick to frosted crystal. And I tried it and I couldn't get it to work. I'm like, how did you do it? She's like, I just did it. It just worked for me. And I remember saying to Paul, I'm like, well, it doesn't work for me. So I didn't talk about it, but desperate times call for desperate measures. So I went back and I'm like, okay, I got to figure out like how she got this to work. And more importantly, is it just a one-off or is it something that would work indefinitely? So I did call Stacy after I figured out, I'm like, remember that post? She's like, oh yeah. I'm like, here are the steps that I did to replicate. She's like, yeah, I think that's exactly what I did. So I'm going to share how you can use frosted crystal to adhere glitter, because if you look at both of these, one is done with sticky and the other is done with frosted crystal. And well, you can see same.
You can't tell the difference.
Same. So workaround. Again, if you have this, use it. But if you don't, and you've been looking for an alternative, I know Louisa even asked me, she's like, how do I get this stuff? It's out everywhere. I'm like, I don't know. Frosted crystal is going to be your jam. Now, frosted crystal does come in a smaller jar. I just use it so much in the world of distress that I asked Ranger if they would do a big jar for me, because really you can cover whole pieces of stuff and give it not only a matte finish, but a beautiful texture if you're going to tint it with crayons or pencils or anything. But for the purpose of this demo, we're using it as a glue, okay? So here we go. We'll start with, I'll just take a stamped image. Now, I will preface this, let me just bring this out, that when I like to, I'll just say demo for a season, and I'll get into a little bit more detail, I do like to kind of create a basket of stuff that I'm going to work with. And I do that for the demo, but I also do if I'm going to sit down and maybe make. And I talk about this every season, especially it could be Christmas, Halloween, whatever. But if you have a lot of stuff in your creative space and maybe you're making for Halloween, just go through your stuff and just pick out some things that you might like. It doesn't have to be everything you own that's Halloween, because our tastes change through the years. You might have bought something and you don't like it this year, but it doesn't mean you're not going to like it next year. I know a lot of people purge their stuff, and that's fine. If you need space, by all means, purge your stuff. But I often find that some stuff, it's like, not for me. But then the next year I'm like, oh, that's exactly what I want. So I just go in and gather stamps. I'll go in and gather some dies. It could be embossing folders, some stencils. And I limit myself to a basket, because if not, you'll just pile up your entire craft room to say, oh, look at how much Halloween stuff I have. And that's not the purpose of this. This is to kind of help streamline what you want to do. I think for this one, because I'm going to stamp something color, I want to choose images that have more solid, because that's going to give me the ability to show off color. If you do something like this, I have a lot of open space that's designed to be colored in, it would still work, but it's not nearly as impactful. So it could also be a moth. That's pretty cool. I'll keep both of these out just in case. I'll see what I want to do. All right. And we've also done this with the bottle brush trees. So I'm sure I'll do the bottle brush trees again, but I'll save that for the holiday hoopla. For now, we're going to stick with Halloween. Okay. What we need to work with is we're going to work with a stamping block. It could be something big, something small, whatever it is that you want to work with. I often use a bigger block for smaller stamps just because my hands get in my way. Then we're going to work with frosted crystal. And then we're going to talk about the ink that you want to use. And the ink is going to be completely up to you. There could be probably an endless debate on the best ink to work with. You can use any ink that's going to stay wet long enough for you to get a powder on there. So any ink that's going to be embossable, meaning when you go and stamp it, it will stay wet long enough to apply any kind of embossing powder. Now in the world of embossing, there's a lot of mediums. There's embossing dabbers, there's embossing, let me grab these over here. There's embossing dabbers, there's embossing ink pads. These inks are different than any of your other ink pads. These are glycerin based. So these are very wet, and like if you put it on your fingers and you roll it, it's very greasy, very oily. Some brands are very sticky. It just means that it's an ink that's going to stay wet longer to give you more time to put on your powder. So if you use these, you have way more what we refer to as open time, way more time from stamping an image to actually pouring on the powder to actually heat embossing. If you're not using these, your window is shortened, but there's a lot of things that can impact that window. Okay, not just ink, but also paper. Different papers absorb ink at a different ratio, and you know that as makers, or maybe you're new to this whole crazy frenzy. The whole thing to keep in mind is that just because a technique doesn't work on something you've tried doesn't mean that it doesn't work. You may need to just try different papers. So here are 3 different ones. This happens to be white heavy stock. This is distressed white heavy stock. This is watercolor cardstock. And this is craft paper. These three surfaces will absorb completely different. This will absorb less because it is a smooth coated paper. So after they've made the paper, they actually put some coating on to make it smooth. It still absorbs ink, but it's smoother. Watercolor paper is designed to absorb and move, so you have less open time on this. And craft, well, it's usually made of recycled paper, so it just sucks up whatever you use. So my point is the technique I'm going to share with you, I'm going to do on white heavy stock because it's going to give me more open time. It's going to give me more time to stamp and put my powder. So if you're trying this technique with papers you have at home and it's not working, you can either try a different ink, maybe a pigment ink or something that an oxide definitely has a longer open time than distress ink, or try changing up your paper. I think all those things are important. I say it all the time. It probably bores a lot of people, but I say it anyway, and you might have heard it 20 times, but I'll continue to say it because I remember when I've been stamping for many years, and I felt that so many people were like omitting the basics because they assumed everyone understood that, but you don't. And it's a tough lesson to learn on your own. And sometimes, even if you know it, you forget it because you're just thinking about the stamp and the colors and not everything else. And you need to hear it, I don't know, a couple hundred times to get it figured out. So we're going to work with distress ink. We're going to work with minis. I think I want to do, let's see, for this one, let's just do the cauldron first. I'll probably go back and do a couple other ones, but just that cauldron, toil and trouble seems really, really fun to try with this. Okay, so I'm just going to place this on a block. Okay, so I'm using a long block because now this is, if I was putting it on a specific spot, it allows me to figure out where I want to go and then stamp. But could you use a smaller block? Yes, but then if it was there and I needed to put it somewhere specific, your hand is covering it. So that's another thing. If you have longer blocks, I do love a grid block. Once you learn to love a grid block, you'll always love it. But if you don't learn to love it, you'll probably continue to hate it because it is a love. I'm being honest. It's a love or hate. You know, because if you use a thick block, you're like, these things are ridiculous. It's like,
yeah, but I'll take a grid block any day over the thick ones.
But
they're just like using a brick.
But some people just love that. Some people love that solid feel. So you have to do what works best for you. Okay, I'm going to do black because that's going to be the cauldron. I might do a little hickory smoke. Just maybe we'll do a little shading. I don't know if it's going to show up or not. And then for this little fizzly shizzly stuff, I'm going to use some green. Maybe we'll do a little twisted, well, you know, just what do you call, like that? I don't know if it's smoke or sparks, but it's fizzles, whatever. Okay, could be green, could be purple, could be whatever. In this case, it's going to be green because obviously I got green in the brain. I need to shake that. Okay, those are going to be my colors. So we're going to stamp in the ink. We're going to put on frosted crystal. That's the first thing we need to figure out. We'll get to the glitter part in just a minute. Okay, so I'll take a piece of paper that's going to grab onto my powder that I want to work with. I'm going to have my powder at the ready. There's no reason that you can't be ready for embossing. It's not like you have to do any Indiana Jones moves really quick. It's just something like be at the ready. Have your stuff available for you when you want to work with it. Okay? So in the case of this, I want to ink up some different colors of things. So I'll take black soot and I'm just going to stamp that down. I'll mix with a little hickory smoke. Do you have to? No. Why am I doing it? I don't know. Just because I want to. Will I contaminate my ink pad? No. You can't contaminate distress by putting one color into the next. You can only contaminate it if you re-ink it the wrong color. So there's our black right now. Now, let me show you something because I just noticed it. Can you see on the stamp, you see how the ink is like beading up right there? It doesn't really want to take. I can tell that this is an unused stamp in my world, which is shocking because normally I do this before I put it away, but I probably didn't with this set. I'm going to wipe this off. I just want to show you something. You can take black archival, and I've talked about this again for years. I'm just going to use black soot, but it could be jet black archival. I just prefer black. I don't know if any other color works, but I've always used black. I apply it to a stamp. I'll do this on rubber or clear, and then I'm just going to take a dry cloth. I just work with a cotton towel and I'm going to wipe it off. So see how it's got like that ink on there? This is primed, meaning it's got some layer of permanent ink on there, and I normally do that to all of it. So that to me is what I prefer to use, okay? Because I feel that by having, and it's clean, because archival is permanent. This is gonna, so you would do this with a permanent ink pad. But maybe it's the oils in archival. I don't necessarily know the chemistry, but I just know that it works, okay? So now I'm gonna take that ink and put that on there. And I'll just show you the difference of how that spot inked with black. See the difference? Totally solid right there. I'm gonna go in with my hickory smoke and blend that out. It's really interesting how, so I'm just taking that hickory smoke and I'm kind of creating just that little fade. See how I just kind of faded that color? Doesn't mean you can't go back with some more black and bring that in, but yeah, your stamps just take ink better. I do this with clear and rubber. Maybe it's just in my head, but I think it works. I've been doing it forever. So I'm taking a little twisted citron, then I'm going to take a little crushed olive and just go across over the top of that. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to stamp. So I'll stamp that. Just stamp with purpose, no CPR, just give it, there's our stamp, and then immediately cover it with powder, okay? Just tap with your fingers, that's what we have. So it is covered in powder. Now, you cannot wait. You don't have an indefinite amount of time because unlike a glycerin-based ink, that ink is drying. So I'm gonna take a heat tool, an embossing gun, and I'm going to emboss it. So, what's that? Okay, so here real quick. I do have a couple seconds. I want to get rid of this powder. Normally I would work on, when I do this, oh, I see there's a little black fleck. I'll take that out. I work with two different things, but I want to have your glitter has to be ready for this one. Okay, here we go. Should be fine. If you wait too long, your powder will start flying off. So let's emboss it. So when we emboss this, you'll see that frosted crystal typically, see that cauldron just getting a little dark? There we go. So typically that would be done with frosted crystal. But if I keep going, you're going to see that your image becomes shiny. Well, shinier, I would say. There we go. Let me heat that. Once that's done, you're going to put the glitter on. Wait a second. You don't want to pack it down. Could you? On this one, it wouldn't be terrible because it's not like glue, but again, I still just don't do it. And then I'm just going to tap that off. So this is what we have right now. Now, this is going to put glitter all the way around just because of I think the dust in frosted crystal. It has quite a bit of a fluming effect. So for now, you could go in and brush it off if you want, but I'm not bothered. I'm going to leave it there for now. You'll see what I mean. So now I'm going to take my heat tool and I'm going to go over it a second time. Now this glitter on the outside is probably going to go flying a little bit, this little flecks, but you'll see, I don't know if you can see that changing, but my color is just appearing a little different. Can you see how the color of the cauldron just changed? It just got a little bit darker, not significantly, just a little bit, okay? Then we're going to let this cool for a second, just for a second, doesn't take long. Again, I'm using an embossing gun because an embossing tool is what's going to allow the powder to melt quicker than a heat tool, because I'll be using a heat tool today as well. All right, while that's cooling, I'm just cleaning up my area because it is a hot mess over here. Okay, so this is what we have right now. So again, we have that fluming of glitter, but fear not. Next, I'm going to take my brush, which is what I would normally do. So these steps are no different than like with sticky embossing powder. So I like just a brush that has a little bit of coarse bristle. And then I'm going to take this off and just really brush off what you don't want. Now, I'll tell you this, that if you brush off that excess around the edge before you heat it, so when I do it, I would normally go with the brush and just kind of clean up the bulk of it. You don't get these little, see those, there's still little tiny bits of glitter. There we go, you can see that. Because again, this is going to stick wherever this was. And for the purposes of embossing, you never see frosted crystal. But you can see like that is completely glittered. It's on there, it's not going to come off. And it really just glitters the image. But frosted crystal has this, and so would sticky. But this one, because there's really not much glue, I'm just going in with my fingernail because maybe the brush isn't going to do it. And that's going to take off that excess glitter. But really, if you just go in and brush that fluming off, but a great alternative to, in my opinion, it's a great alternative for using glitter over that. So we'll do another one. This time I'm going to go in and, we'll brush off the excess and all that stuff. But pretty amazing that it worked. to be honest. Like, it's a great alternative because honestly, if you've used frosted crystal and you've tried to get that frosted look, and then you realize that when you go and do it, you overheat it, and then that frosted crystal becomes sticky. It was like, that's probably why Stacy was like, oh wow, it worked. But I couldn't get it, and that's because I wasn't doing the second heating. Meaning, I put it on because she said it stuck and I let it cool, but then when I dusted off, it just kept coming off on my hands. But it's that second like baking where you're almost sealing the glitter in, because this glitter is also heat stable. So see how that glitter didn't melt? You have to be careful of certain glitters. Not all glitters are heat stable either. Some glitters will literally just melt and turn into goo, okay? So I'm gonna put my glitter back in. But really, when I'm doing this, I just kind of leave my frosted crystal over here, my glitter over here, and I'll just dump it when I'm all done. I know some people back in the days of stamping, they're like, never turn on your heat gun if you have a jar of embossing powder open or whatever. Well, you could do that. Just don't point it there. There you go. Just cleaned it off with some water. Let's do something else. Let's pick a different stamp with different color. But real quick, just to save time, obviously I've used these. You can see what I've used and what I didn't, but really normally when I just get a stamp, and I use the Ghosty. I'll just prime the whole thing. Doesn't take much. This is just, and some people like clean stamps. If you like clean stamps, don't do this. There's your solution.
You did prime the whole thing, but I think that might be one of the ones that I hijacked from your book.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, because oh, did you send it to someone?
Yes.
Oh, well, there you go. Because I'm like,
I didn't have one.
because normally, really, before I put stamps away, I just prime them and put them away. Because then I've done that for 20 years. As soon as I learned it, because it depends on the ink. It was like, well, this doesn't work and this doesn't work. Okay, let's see. What do we want to do that's going to be a fun color? Oh, I think the witch will be fun. It's going to be a little bit more tedious, but do you have to use distress ink for this? Oh my gosh, no. If you have other markers, like this is a great technique with water-based markers. If you had distress markers would work. If you have Tombow markers, those will work. Any water-based is also a great ink for this technique because it stays wet long enough to emboss. But I'm just gonna go in with the ink pads because I like a good challenge. Okay, I've got another piece of heavy stock. Actually, I think I can use this one. Yeah, I'll just use this spot over here. I don't need a new piece. Okay. Do this again. For this one, for the witch, let's use some other colors. Let's do, I mean, we're gonna really get crazy. We're gonna do the top of her broom. We'll do a little fossilized amber there. I think for maybe her stripes, let's do some orange, maybe some carved pumpkin. I could do crackling campfire, but I won't. Then for the purple, I think that'd be fun. We could use villainous potion, but let's do something bright. Let's go in with some wilted violet. We'll do a little purple there. That pumpkin could be there. Oh, then maybe her stripes will be that. I'll use black. For the broom handle, I think the broom handle will use brown. So you can really put in as much time. One thing that I always want to remind you as a maker is makers need to relearn the love of making. There you go. I said it. Relearn the love of making. I read so often how people just don't want to be bothered making. That's the reality. It's like, it takes too long. I have to use this. I have to use that. I'm like, but isn't that what you started doing in the first place? You really wanted to make. So I think it's, my suggestion, especially during this time of year, try to fall in love with making again because it's really fun. Okay. So I've got my powder, and then over here I'm gonna have my glitter. How about that? I'll do it. Oh, you can see both on camera. Okay, so I'm gonna have this piece of paper for my glitter. I'm gonna have this for my frosted crystal. So that's gonna be my embossing powder. This way I can just emboss, heat, and glitter. So that's really like how it would normally work. Could you use an anti-static pad? Yes, you could. Would that help on the frosted crystal? It absolutely might. I don't typically use that, but you certainly could give that a shot. That could save you the time. For now, I just have a brush that I'll use to get off any of the excess powder. Okay, here we go. So let's just start by inking. I'm just gonna do the top of her broom with a little bit of yellow, little fossilized amber. Then I'm gonna take little brush quarter. So I'm only using the corner, see right there? And I'm just, when you use the edge of the pad, this, like I said, this might be too tedious for people, but I like a fun challenge, and the sake of the Hoopla is just for fun. So I'm gonna do the pumpkin, a little bit orange, And I work with the lighter colors because see where I kind of went over? I'm going to cover that up. That's not going to matter. And I like it to be a little mucky anyway. It doesn't matter. Okay, so her cape's going to be some purple. Here we go. A little on the arm. A little bit of purple there. And there's tricks. There's so many things that we, honestly, we could do. I'm going to take a little green, do that, little twisted citron in the middle. So I always work with my colors first, and if the image is going to incorporate black, that's going to be last. So I'm just going to do her hat and head in black, because I think I like that little witch hat there. And then the bottom, I'm going to also do black, because I think that's going to anchor her a little bit. There we go. And then I notice right here, just needs a little bit more purple. There we are. Okay, that's what we have. She's all ready to go. If you've taken a while, you can breathe on it. A little hot breath, that'll make sure that the ink stays wet. But we're gonna just take her, we'll stamp. Excellent. Pick her up, powder. Excellent. Tap it off. There you go. Frosted crystal. Good deal. And we're gonna emboss it. Heat it up. And heat emboss until not only does, see, like that would be frosted crystal where the color becomes luminous, but it's totally dull. You do this to where it's shiny. So it's kind of like you overheat. Okay, overheat, good deal. Set it down, glitter over the whole thing. Wait a second, just so the glitter has a chance to grab the image. Shake that off. See, you can see that. Now I'm just going to take my brush and go around that image. I'll try an anti-static pad. Not during the demo, but I'll try one because I don't know if that's going to help with frosted crystal or not. You can also just give it a good tap. I'm just tapping the excess glitter just because I want some of that off. But I like this effect. It's really nice. And a dry brush, especially a small dry brush at this stage, it does make it easier to kind of get around the edges. But at this point, I don't want to touch the top because I haven't technically sealed in the rest of that glitter. Okay. Good deal. Then I'm just going to take that. And you'll just kind of see it. I don't even know. You'll just see the color change a little bit. Did you see it? It was very subtle, but it just happened. It was like quick, zippity-doo. And there you go. Fun. A fun little sparkly, just a great design. And you could do your inking. So you could do your ink blending before or after. It doesn't matter as long as your ink background is dry before you do it. You can really create a lot of different elements to it. But she's fun. Really a great way to just incorporate a little sparkle on a stamped image. And there's a workaround because, again, if you're waiting to do glitter, just makes it easy to do. Okay, now we'll put these back in, and we'll kind of play throughout. I think it does become a mindset. We're going to do some stuff. It's not all going to be about glitter. So if you're like, I am not a glitter thing, they should have just called it the Sparkle Fest instead of the Hoopla. But no, it is about learning how to do different elements. Ooh, there it is. Do you see it? You see that little? Told you there's a little black fleck in there.
That'll make you crazy.
Oh, it will forever. It will haunt me in my dreams if I don't take that out. Got it. Got it. Okay. Now let's put that stuff back. Really, really good. Yeah, I think, I've been reading a couple of comments about embossing guns. Like, it's crazy for, not all embossing guns are created equal, that's for sure. And certainly when it comes to working with heat tools, some work really well and some are kind of a mess. All right, I just want to see this. I'm going to spray this with a little water because I still have ink on there. See that? Just a couple of sprays. I've got to see if there's anything on there. There may not be, but we'll see. Oh, yeah, there's enough. Subtle, but be a nice watercolor. Let's try that. Because I use an embossing gun and I use a heat tool. This is Ranger's heat tool. I use Ranger heat tool for everything except embossing. It's a great heat tool for drying inks and mediums. Oh, she's charming. A little bit more faded, but still really nice. Yeah, Nice little watercolor. Get a second generation of that. That's easy. Go in with some pencil, add a little sentiment. That's good. But definitely a couple of ways to incorporate stamps. And do you have to do all that fussy little coloring? No way. You can just take a regular solid image and go for it. It could be one color with a color of glitter. It could be whatever you want it to be, honestly. Okay, let's put some of these away. These little cubes in there. And we'll talk about some different elements to think about when it comes to working with, oh, I think I put one, I don't know what I put in. There you go. To put in with different ideas. I've got some paints, got some alcohol inks, I got some sprays. It's good fun. All right. Yeah, I do. I'm a huge fan. I'm a fan of the cubes. Okay. So we did that, we did that, we did that, we did that, we did that. Okay. Because I'm doing all the accessories before we get into the sprays, because I got some fun spray magic playing with mica. Okay. So far so good on glitter. Did I cover everything, Mario? Are there any questions that I didn't? Hopefully not. If so, just shout them out.
2 questions, but they've all been answered.
Okay. Cool. Just tidying up, guys, because I have a big stack of stuff over here. Okay. Let's clear this glitter.
To be taken out of the way.
Nope, I'm good. Thanks. Yep. Okay.
Sparkle Fest.
Is that what? Yeah. Well, I know people are like, oh, I'm so not into it. But hey, there's so many different ways that you could use glitter. It's amazing. All right. So we'll talk real quick just about how I approach making. And I talk about this, I already mentioned when it comes to stamps and stencils. But one thing that's also really important is about being of the mindset, and I love bringing this in. I love to create it every year. But it's about creating your embellishment station. Now, you may not be into embellishments, that's fine. But it is really important to kind of understand that if you have things at the ready, you're more likely to use them. It doesn't mean you will. So also don't think of this as like a charcuterie board where you need to eat it all or it's going to go away. This is about taking things. Now, I've had this muffin tin for years. That works for me, but I've seen everything from divided boxes, whatever. My point is, the same way you would gather your stamps and your dies and maybe even your papers or your embellishments in a basket, find whatever trinkety bits inspire you and just put them out. Because when you go and create, you don't have to then search for something. And if you have a lot of random ideas out, you might use it in a way that you didn't anticipate using it because it's there. You're working on something and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, she's really cute. So I'll use her, and yeah, maybe I'll put a little candy pieces, or, oh gosh, I have this charm, I'll pair it with that. This is just going to give you the idea when you're embellishing your final project that you have things that you like. Versus, oh, do I have this? I got to go find it. And then that takes hours from the card. I'm very much about compartmental thinking. I would spend time on backgrounds. I would spend time on stamping. I would have all these components, and then the build day or the build weekend comes and it's really fun. And yes, I'm going to share how to do candy corn trees because they're easier than you think. But in here I have stuff from current and seasons past. So like, for example, on the glitter, yes, we glittered these pieces, but I always have a stash of glittered confections because if I want to use it, I am not going to spend the time to glitter it. I'm just not. It doesn't mean that I'm a lazy maker. It just means that I need to move on, or maybe I don't have time to do all the details. But if you just did a batch of confections, whenever you go to use it, if you prefer it sugared, it's done. These were, I think, the last 2 years. They didn't come back this year. It's a favorite. I just love to, even something as simple as filling it with confections. If you're going to take something like that and you're going to fill it, let me see, where did I put that? I have it somewhere. There we go. I talk about this hack. A styrofoam ball, even a wadded up piece of paper is going to work. But if you have any type of container that you're going to work with, it's really nice to have a styrofoam ball. I like the crunchy ones that you can shape because see how this is too big? But because it's crunchy, I could just roll it around on the table. You can kind of hear it crackle, and then it just fits in there. But this is nice because then I can go in with hot glue and glue the confections out of the top instead of wasting it. Wadded up paper would do the same if you want, but I just find that this is easier because I can also stick things in it. Maybe you wanted to put some bones coming out of it. So I can actually just pierce through that with the craft pick and then have things stick out. So that's why I prefer that over paper, because if it's full of paper, you can't actually stick things in later because the paper is too hard. But same thing with a cauldron. You know, you could do the same thing with little styrofoam balls. A lot of fun. We're gonna talk about these little guys later on, probably in session 2. So I'm gonna skip over those for now. Drippy candles, those are fun. We can ink these, paint these. We could even glitter these. Easy to just add a little sparkle to these, or we can do foundry wax on them. I'll talk about bubbles next. Skulls, bones, really fun. Toadstools, because those are every day, but they're perfect for Halloween. Graveyard, even down to crypt paste, like this is last year's. Just smearing some crypt paste on something so it's ready, so you don't have to do it and wait for it to dry. That's just fun. Same thing like with the urns. These didn't come back, but if you have enough trinkets, the little gates and locks, even metals. I mean, gosh, I remember these from years past. Like I love this cat. That was really fun. I think that was an embellishment that Stacy had. I found a little owl head last night. I'd really like to bring him back. He's cute. Little spiders, skulls. So just, again, having stuff at the ready is, in my opinion, super important to work with. Another thing that's really fun to work with are lights. And I love to light things up. We'll get into lights a little bit later too. But I want to talk about the cauldron and ink just because I'm going to work with alcohol ink real quick. It's going to make it super easy to understand this way. One of my favorite ways to, there we go, over here, to alter things is with alcohol ink. And you'll see this in the holiday Hoopla as well, but just with a different surface. But I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I agree. I wish they made the eyes, but the eyes are still available. I've seen them at several retailers. They've been available all year long, creepy eyes. So yeah, they're super fun. So if you're like me and you want to stock up on creepy eyes, now's a chance. They probably won't be past this year, but I've seen them. So these little guys, these little bubbles are something that comes out in Idea-ology, well, so far every Halloween, and baubles come out for Christmas. The difference between bubbles and baubles are clear, they have no holes, and baubles are pearl and have no holes. And these make really great, they make a lot of great things. I'm not going to demo this until Christmas, but I'll still show it to you because I opened my mouth. But here's my stash of bubbles and baubles, just so you know. Because these only come out at Halloween, often people that look at this idea and they're like, oh, you know what, I don't do bubbling cauldrons, so pass. These are the ultimate snowball. They are beautiful for snowballs because they make these great little icy things. What is it? Well, you've already seen the demo. It's bubbles, glossy accents, and rock candy. Just like we did the confections, you just take bubbles, roll them in your fingers, throw them in rock candy, shake them, throw them in, and then you end up with these beautiful icy snowballs that you can backlight. You can do so many things with them, but they only come out at Halloween. So if you forget about that, that's the whole deal. Baubles, Christmas, alcohol ink makes ornaments. We'll get into that, like I said, for the holiday Hoopla. But it's fun. It's stuff to remember and see differently. But we're gonna tint these because it's super easy. I'm gonna do a purple batch because I see, like, again it's green. I'm like, no, we're gonna go purple. We are. Okay. The nice thing about working with bubbles, especially if it's going to be something in a cauldron, or maybe it's just going to be something completely different, is the fact that they are totally translucent. And because they are translucent, they light up. So here's just a little demo piece that I did. This is a cauldron. This has bubbles in it, and it has tiny lights. So tiny lights, I just drilled a hole through the bottom. If you don't want to bother with drilling a hole, especially this new one that has these little feet, you can go up over the side, because often, you know, when you go to put this in a project, you can easily just have the light jump over the side of the cauldron and it will be hidden. So I wouldn't bother drilling a hole, okay? But what's nice about having the lights is that you can light up those colors, and by having them tinted ahead of time, they're gonna look good either way, okay? They're gonna look good either way because they have that tint when the light's off, and they glow even better. The type of lights of how you wanna light them up, if you want them to be really green, well, at Halloween we do green tiny lights and purple. But you don't have to if you don't want to. If you just want to use whatever colors, any clear lights will reflect that color because this color is translucent. So let's do some purple ones. It's very easy to do this. When I work with this, I like to work with portion cups because they're inexpensive. Anything that you can find that's disposable, I just prefer this method. That's what I do. But you need like dedicated cups per color because there's so much ink on the inside of this that any other color other than green is going to re-wet this and mix it up. So you don't want to do that. Okay. So for this, someone said, did I drill a hole in the side as well? Oh gosh, you have a good eye. I did. Man, whose comment was that? That was really smart, but I did. Oh, that was Edwina. You're right, I did. See? Because I wanted light there, I just went in and drilled a tiny, see, you can see. And it's literally one light in there that acts as a beacon. It's crazy. Tiny lights are so bright. But I did that because I wanted those on the side to glow. See, that's good. Yeah, once you have a Dremel tool in hand, it's a frightening thing. You just want to go and drill everything. So this is how easy it is to tint these a color. You're just going to take some bubbles, place them in a cup, and I still like to do a little bit at a time. I mean, it doesn't matter if I need a lot. I've never inked in big batches. I'm not saying you can't, but I just don't. I also like to put mine in a bag because there's all different sizes of bubbles that come in the package, and I like to be able to take a random thing. If you just grab them, the big ones are always at the top, and then you miss all these little ones. So I just like to dig in there and just pull out, I'll even pull out a few more small ones. So I've also found that, you know, just taking a little bit of that, I think that's good. Okay, just a little bit of that. Then for coloring, just like we did with the glitter, we're going to use alcohol ink because alcohol ink is designed for non-porous things. Plastic, metal, glass. Glitter is a plastic. These are also plastic. They're an acrylic. But let's do purple. Just because. So what do I have? Ooh, do I want to do boysenberry or vineyard? Oh, I think I'm going to do vineyard. Vineyard's going to be a dark purple, but boysenberry is kind of a pinky purple. I think I'm going to go that. I'm going to go vineyard. Okay. When you work with this, you'll want to be sure that you have a place for these to dry if you want. Now, personally, I like to now leave them drying in the cup. I never did. In the past, I was always like, when you're done, pour them out on thing. I like to dry them. You can see the remnants of the bubbles. Why? Because I found that if you let them dry in the cup and kind of stuck to each other, you get this weird ink buildup that creates a little bit more depth. But if you want them to be clean after you're done, you would just pour them out to dry. You could pour them on a paper towel or deli paper or whatever, but you'll see I'm going to leave them in the cup. So I've got two cups, the top and the bottom. I've got that. Yeah, we could totally mix the purples. It'd be fun. This is just it's gonna be good. I'm just gonna squeeze some in. We can always add more. Just no takesies backsies unless you do rubbing alcohol. Just put the cap on, like just set it over the top, and then just do like a spin cycle. So I like them to spin because if you spin, they're gonna roll through the color. If you shake them, then they just kind of hit the color. So I like to do a little spin cycle. And there they are. Look at those. Woo-wee. Beautiful. Look at that. See, there's the light shining through. So you can see, yeah, you can't really tell the color when there's ink in there, but you can see when the light shines through. So good. So I'm just going to leave them in that cup for that to dry. If you wanted them to be a darker color, you could add more. If you wanted them to be a lighter color, we can lighten those. Let's do a couple of other options. Lighten that. You can take any type of alcohol. This is just rubbing alcohol. You can do 91% if you want. And we're just going to give it a little mist. And you'll see that it just starts to dissipate. You can see even on the side what the alcohol is doing. So if you ever have these that you want them to be a little bit lighter, you can just spray them with rubbing alcohol. Could you pour rubbing alcohol in there? Well, you would just essentially wash them off. So it's completely up to you. And you could, if you want to transfer those to a clean cup, go ahead. Because look at this one. See what that rubbing alcohol did? See over there? Where it's just kind of a little speckly, fleckly.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
nice.
it's cool. But that's the nice thing about just a sprayer. And again, it's not an infomercial, but Ranger sells the same sprayers that say mica stain or whatever. They sell them empty. But you want a small fine mist sprayer because if you got a hose, you'll just hose it off. But see, a little bit. It's all it is. And they'll dry like that. Cool. So you can let them dry however you want. It could be a clean cup, a cookie sheet, a paper towel, whatever you like. But a little rubbing alcohol changes the dynamic of it. And you could do it even after they're dry. So I'll take these green ones that we did. It's just a little different, and I'll show you why. I'll see if that's going to pick it up. if you do the alcohol thing after they're completely dry, see how it just becomes streaky? You see that? So they don't have the same, like, I don't know, almost webbing or shattered look, because the alcohol reacted to the alcohol and moved it. This just tries to kind of like rinse it. So on the baubles, it's not a bad thing. They just get a little bit more drippy. So I just prefer to do it during the inking process. But whatever works, because I know we always need some creative options. That's good. Can you mix alcohol inks? Absolutely. You can mix whatever colors you would like of alcohol inks together. So we could have mixed vineyard and that. In fact, we're going to do some vintage grungy ones. Why not do a couple more? Because I have some cups here. Sometimes seeing a demo more than once will help. I think for this one, let's do a little bit of moss. That's going to be good. And we'll do some, maybe not. Can you, Mario, I think at the bottom, my mushroom alcohol inks on the bottom of the spinner. Okay. I just want to talk about if you like a color like I do. I like mushrooms, so I'll show you that. I'm going to take some more. Let's put this in. You could do foundry wax over alcohol ink as long as the thing is heat stable. Foundry wax goes over anything as long as that element is heat stable for you to melt the wax. So we're going to do moss. That's going to be a great green color. And then we're going to tint it with mushroom. Now, mushroom is pretty much empty for me. If you like colors, there are 2-ounce bottles of select colors in the palette. I just happen to love mushroom. You'll see why in a second. Okay, we're going to do some moss. Moss is a great color. A little dribble for that. Spin cycle. There we go. Look at those. Isn't that a pretty color? It's like, this moss reminds me of like Coke bottle glass, if you remember, like that green glass.
Oh, it really does. Yeah,
I just love that color. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. I'm going to put a couple more drips in there. And let's just, because that same thing, just like glitter, it's just going to give it another. There we go. Look at that. Okay. I'm going to let that dry for a second. Put the cap on that. And we're going to add some mushroom. Now, if you add mushroom to the color while it's wet, it will mix the colors, meaning it will become its own color, because you're essentially mixing the green moss with like a dirty mushroom, and then it becomes a new green. But what we're going to use mushroom for essentially is just to add some like age spots, if you will. So I'm just going to keep mixing, just putting these from like cup to cup to help, I'll just say, aerate them. I could use a heat tool, but my portion cup is not heat stable, so that wouldn't be wise. But really, just going back and forth is going to dry these off a little quicker. All right. And then what I'm going to do with mushroom, now you could drip it on, but if you drip it on, you're going to drip it on, okay? Like it's going to be brown on there. So if you just put some in the cup, you might need to go back and add some later. We put some on the lid. Then I'm just going to flip this over, and then, yeah.
I love this spin cycle.
And that's just going to add some grunge to it. Actually, I'm going to just flip this over because I want it to pick up more. There we go. So see, I was able to, because the mushroom lives up here now, I was able to just, see that? Look at those little spots. Give it a dip in the grunge pool. So like go in there and then flip it back there. It's just about how you use the tools. It's the same thing. It just, keeping in mind, like by putting the ink up here, I just have more control over the age spots. See, look at those age spots. Here they're kind of getting this little brown grunge. And as long as that ink is still wet, see that mushroom in there? You don't need to add any more. You just bring it in there and then go down there. There we go. Look. There, that's good. I love that color. And then once you're happy with it, you're good. You're done. Because there's been so many times that I like kind of create the perfect color. I'm like, oh, I'm going to add mushroom, and then it just ruins it all. So having it in like a separate compartment and putting it in and then mixing it out, look at that color. So they just have a little mix of green with just those little, just call them age spots. Mushroom is like the perfect vintage. And we'll let those dry. So that's really how easy it is. And like anything else that you custom color, it becomes quite addicting. But, you know, I just have little plastic bags of, you know, tinted stuff, snowballs, whatever you want to create. I think that's the beauty of working with them. There's so many, so many great ways to work with stuff. But having having some type of tray. Again, it doesn't have to be the muffin tray. I just like it because it looks good on my table and I like to leave it out. It's not something I want to put away. So that is something that's going to give you some creative alternatives. Now, could you add glitter to them just like we did the snowballs? Yes. Now you could go in and add that. You could add clear rock candy if you want, or you could add a solid color. You could glitter the world, really. You could do whatever. You could even glitter the eyes. In fact, I want to because I just said it, because this one's looking right at me. I just want to see what that looks like. It's good. Okay, yeah, another compartment. It's just about how you apply this stuff. It doesn't make how you've done it right or wrong. That's what you have to remember. I think as makers, just, gosh, give yourself some permission to just play instead of, well, what if I did this? What if I did this? If you might have a trick, even if you did it. I'll go back to the technique that Stacy did. She did it, but I couldn't get it to work until I played a little bit more, and then I got it to work. So if you take sometimes you take things at face value and then it doesn't work for you, you kind of give it up. So I think it's important. All right. I just want to glitter an eye. Why? I don't know why.
Tammy said she glittered him once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Once meaning don't do it?
No, it's got a smile.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm like, yeah. Meaning I glittered him once, like don't do it. Okay. I'm just going to squeeze a little glossy accents on there. I always do that. So see? Make sure. Oh. Perfect. And I'm not going to, normally I would squeeze the glossy accents out on the paper. You already saw how that's doing. Oh, for candy eyes. That makes sense. I remember. I should have paid more attention to that fabulous Halloween make. Candy eyes. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Did I get enough on there? It felt a little tacky. Oh, I did. Ooh, good. All right. Clean my fingers. I'm telling you, rock candy for the win. It's just so, so good. Oh my gosh. I saw that question. Did we show the candy corn ghosty in a video? I think I did. I just don't remember which video.
I kind of feel like we did, but
yeah, because I even think I even showed how to drill the candy corn. I did, but I mean, I'm sorry. Maybe somebody that's seen it would know, but it slipped my mind as to which video it would be in. But I do believe I did. So, oh my gosh, stop it right now. Candy eyes. Tammy B, that's brilliant. I love that. Look at that.
That is really nice.
Look at that sugary eyeball.
It's super sparkling.
Oh, see? And I thought I had enough of these. I may need to go shopping again, if they're still around. But it's going to go in the tray because I can use it. That's the thing to remember. If it goes in, you're more apt to use it. Okay, so far so good. Excellent, excellent. Okay. Going to talk about altering these now. We're going to talk about candy corn trees because, well, they're fun. And maybe it's not your jam. Maybe it's like, you know what, that's just taking Halloween, Christmas merge a little too far.
No,
I say no.
Beautiful.
I think they're hilarious and they're so easy to make. And you can see that you can choose whatever colors you want. You can go full on bright traditional candy corn, or you can go a little vintage. Those three colors are going to work no matter what. Okay? So let's do that. Let's have fun with that. Okay. For that, I'm going to put this tin away. I'm going to need to take out. Now you can do these with mica stain. So we can do these mica stains if you want. If you have these and these are the only sprays, yes, they will work. But because I'm glittering them, it really doesn't show its true potential. So if you have another spray stain, I would choose that over mica stain. But if mica stain is all you have as your colorant, yes, you can use it. I'm just going to use regular spray stains because I have them. So let's take that. There we go. Oh my God. You know what? I didn't even need to do this because I already have it set up. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Look at me. I already have that in a bin. I put all my ideas in buckets because my brain is a frightening place. That's the reality. And often I'll think of something and in the blink of an eye, it's gone. It was like it was in my head and then it's vanished. And I think as many creatives, maybe you have the same thing where the idea is so good and you're like, this is awesome. And by the time you go to do it, you can't recollect any of it. So for me, my process, really, you'll see, like every idea, no matter fully cooked or not, goes in a bucket. I just got those, they're like, you know, food containers. But I found that if I put it in a bucket, it will trigger that idea quicker. Now you have to remember you had the bucket, because obviously I forgot I did the bucket for the candy corn trees. But that's a little bit of creative advice if you're one of those creative brains that sometimes you can't keep up with yourself. And that's how it is, where, you know, the idea is not fully cooked and I don't have time to do it, but it's there. If I have the stuff there, because even writing it down, I can't make sense of my own little cryptic thing. I can't, because I'm like, what was I even trying to say? But the ingredients, I'm like, what was I going to make with this? And then it's easier to come back up. So that's another thing, but do whatever works. So we're going to do some candy corn trees. You want some type of spray colorant. If you use an oxide spray, they'll just be more creamy, dreamy. If you want them to be vibrant, you definitely want some type of spray dye. I'm just working with spray stains because this is just a fluid version of Distress. But like I said, you could use mica stain if you wanted to. Depending on your colors, bright, it's going to be mustard seed and carved pumpkin. That's going to be traditional. I'll do that. But my vintage one was rusty hinge and fossilized amber. Again, a couple little dirtier colors, but I do love that dirty candy corn tree. I think Zoe did the first vintage grungy candy corn tree I ever saw, and I'm like, that's love right there. Even though, you know, that's what's in the bag, I wouldn't mind a bag of that. That's just good. Okay, so trees. Now, you can find trees everywhere. These are Idea-ology trees. You want to make sure that they are a natural material that will absorb the colors. We now have the new Alpine, the skinny ones, but the skinny candy corn just didn't work for me, so I just chose just regular trees. Because these are hand done, even sometimes smaller trees are going to be a different scale depending on what it is. So yeah, just do whatever's going to work for you. I'll demo on a small one. I don't mind even demoing on, I'll just do this little skinny one. But if you were going to do this on a big one, you would do the same thing. You would just have to pull the bristles down, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, we're going to wear gloves. Now, if you went to my blog circa, I don't know, back in the day, I think when, you know, dinosaurs roamed the earth, I was doing this with like painter's tape. You know, you live and learn. Because I was like, oh, I need painter's tape and I'm going to mask it. And it's like, okay, no. So what I'm going to do on this is I'm just going to take a piece of masking tape to start. I still need a glove-free hand for this. I could have waited, but I already put it on and these sausage fingers won't let me repurpose gloves. I'm going to take the tree, because the tree I want to have white. And believe it or not, this is not white. This is just the tree. Okay, I didn't use any white colorant. But I'll take a piece of masking tape, determine how much of the top I want of my tree to be white. You see that? And then I'm just going to bring it around until the tape meets. And then I'm going to squeeze it together. So again, my original tutorial, I was like making a rocket cone out of masking tape and cutting it. It's like, but if you just go around, it's straight. Even though your tape looks wonky, it creates that perfect mask and you can stick it on to that, okay? Then instead of masking the rest, which quite honestly is an absolute disaster, you're just gonna glove it up. If you have gloves, it makes it so much easier. Because again, if I'm doing candy corn trees, I'm not doing one. I'm doing whatever I have that I want to turn into candy corn trees, okay? So for this, it's going to be these colors, mustard seed, but it could be, again, whatever colors you want. I'll jump into the splat box because I'm going to be spraying and I don't want to have to worry about overspray going anywhere, so this just makes it easy. If you want less cleanup of your spray because you're not going to mop it up with something, just line that with a paper towel. That also makes it quicker. And here we go. So essentially the candy corn is going to be yellow, orange, white. Doesn't really matter where you start. I kind of work from the bottom and then work my way up. But again, you do you. So I'm just going to start by saying, okay, well, that's how much I want to be yellow. And I'm just going to grip the tree, just like that. So whatever's showing is what's going to become that color. And I can squeeze the tree. So the bristles are sticking out. So again, if this was a larger tree, you would squeeze it to where the bristles are out. You know, don't loose grip it because you're still going to spray inside. So you just give that tree a squeeze, okay? Then all we're going to do is you're going to spray right on your hand. So you're just going to take that color, turn your hand, done, okay? I'll just take that paper towel that I sprayed on, use it to mop off the excess, wipe off what's on your glove, because if you don't, that's going to be on the next color. pick up the tree. There's our yellow. Now we're going to just do the opposite. I'm going to go right around where the yellow is. I don't mind if there's a little overlap because I know that the orange will take care of that. And then I'm just going to spray the orange. Again, just kind of move it around. And you don't want to spray into your hand. So if you're turning your hand, just make sure that you're always spraying down and kind of away from that area. That looks pretty good. So again, before I do the dismount, just get rid of that excess, then release, then blot off the excess, clean off your glove. And then we can just take this and just kind of bring the tree to life. Bottle brush trees get a little funny because, you know, they look like they're totally falling apart when they're not, but there really isn't, okay? And you could keep going. You could do as many, but I don't need to do many of those. Your gloves, you can just take them off. If you're going to reuse your gloves, well, you know how to do gloves. I'm just going to reuse these. Okay. So next, just move this off to the side. Next, I'm just going to take a clean paper towel, just so I can wrap around this, make sure that there's no additional dye. See, there's a little bit maybe on the tape. And then you just take off the little topper. There you go. Candy corn.
Easy peasy.
Simple. And all the paper towel is doing really is just taking any excess ink that you don't know is there off. The tree is done and ready to go. Simple, right? A simple way, but let's add a little sugar coating. That's going to be fun. There's many ways that we can do this. I think that watching this live, you've seen that we could do any kind of adhesive. So let's talk about adhesives and what to choose and why and how. So if we want to add a little sugar coating, and it's the same exact colors I did, but to me, the rock candy just changes everything. This is still great, but I just love a little bit of sparkle. Could you do matchy colors? Like, could you actually go in and do clear glitter, orange glitter? Yes, you totally could. That would be that'd be really cool, actually. But what you can do is switch up your adhesives. If you want this to be shiny and quick, glossy accents will work. A little bit on your finger and you go over that. That's going to give you the lightest, most translucent, glittery effect. Meaning if I put this on, it's going to be very sugar coated. If you want it to be white coated, a little thicker, then you would go in with collage medium. So let me grab a jar of that. Where do I have it? Here it is. Collage medium. Now collage medium could be a jar of it, or it could be a bottle of it, doesn't matter. But a thicker glue, if you use thicker glue, it's just going to hold more glitter. So that's where it creates almost a white effect. It's not really white. The glue dries clear. Both of these dry clear. But collage medium, because it's a thicker viscosity, is going to hold more glitter. So this is great more for Christmas because it gives you more of a snowier tree. Okay? Then if you didn't want to bother with glues, could you do resist spray and just spray the trees? Yes. It's not my favorite way because to me, you're just getting so much glue in there that my branches even stick together on the inside of the tree. So, but would it work? Yes, because we've seen it work because we did the Skelly that way. But it's about choosing the kind of glue that's going to give you the best results. So to me, I would either do glossy accents or collage medium. These were both done with collage medium. That's why they're like much whiter, because there's just more glitter. So let's do that, okay? But again, you could do glossy accents or whatever you wanted to do. Now, how you apply the glitter is also going to be up to you. The difference between these, this one is full on sugared, and this one is just kind of dusted with sugar. So you could use either the glitter right out of the bottle, pour it on, that's what I did here, just really soak it on there. Or you can use what's called a glitter duster. That's through Stampers Anonymous. Now, a glitter duster is just, it's just a powder container that, I'll open it up just so you can see how it works in case you have one. But you could put any of these glitters into a glitter duster and you could dust the glitter, okay? So you essentially fill this up about halfway with your favorite glitter. And then this little duster, and there's a lot of different tools out there. I mean, I like this one the best, but you know, a lot of people use them as, say, powder tools, but this one's a little bit different. What I like about this one is that it's got this little schnozzle that turns, okay? It doesn't pull out. A lot of people think they pull it out and then you break it. Most pumps because there are different kind of powder pumps, they don't have this schnozzle and you only shoot it out from the front, and that just doesn't work for me. I like that it's got that little cone thing. So you can angle wherever you're going to do the glitter. For example, if it's a card, I can still hold my bottle up, but I can point my glitter down. If I wanted to do something a little taller, I can do that. That's how you use it. It just clicks right to left. It doesn't really lock open or close. But the mechanism of how it works is important to understand, because we receive the occasional email, even though this is not an official Tim Holtz product, but still I use it and they're like, you know, I got the glitter duster, it doesn't work. Here's the thing about it. When you go to use it, if you just press a little bit, nothing's going to happen. In fact, you see the glitter coming out of the bottom? That's not how this works. There's a spring in there that when you push down, it opens up those little kickstands to let the glitter in. Do you see that? There we go. So if you're only doing this, you're not opening up those little kickstands to get the glitter. Do you see? So you're like, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. You have to push down enough to open those up. Now, these are opening up freely because there's nothing in there. But if there's glitter in there, they're obviously going to be pushing against the walls of the glitter, which is why you don't fill the bottle with glitter. Because if you fill the bottle with glitter, you have no room for anything to shift around. Okay? So now you you understand the mechanics of it, at least. Here we go. So let's screw this on. And we're going to glitter dust a tree. Okay? And I like to glitter dust. I do a lot of glitter dusting, mostly with stamping. I know we did the witch where I poured it over the top, but to be honest, when I'm working with it, I tend to glitter dust because I like just a little light dusting. That's really what I like, just because it's kind of fun. Okay? So what we're going to do, here's our tree. Let's just make sure it's pretty dry. I just want to make sure it's dry. It might feel a little damp and I just want to dry it. Because it's a natural material, I can make sure it's dry. Why do I want to dry it? I just want to make sure that the ink is completely dry. There you are. I think understanding how something works will hopefully keep you from just assuming everything's broken that you get. Because sometimes, most of the time, it's not. Here we go. Just want to make sure that's dry. Here we are. You're welcome, Andrea. That's very nice. Thanks. So what we're going to do is take a little bit of collage medium. Now you can work from the jar or from the bottle. It's the same thing, just depends on how you want to use it. We've got our glitter duster ready. It's open. Now how this works, just so you can see, because you may not see depending on the angle, but when you press down on this, let me see if I can get it to, I gotta see how the light works. There you go. Can you see the glitter coming out of it? See the little sparkle? Is that picking it up on the camera? There you go. You can see it. So that's what this does. It dusts glitter. It doesn't pour. It's not a fountain. It does what it's supposed to do. It just dusts little bits of glitter. And what's nice about that is you just have the ability to add a light dusting. That's why I put paper in here, because all that excess I can put back in the bottle. Okay? So dusting it is just nice because you'll get more control over your sparkles. Sometimes even again on this stamped image, there are times that maybe I don't want the whole thing glittered. Maybe I want just little bits of sparkle, so I would glitter dust instead of pouring it. It's no right or wrong. It's just how you want to apply it. Okay, so for this, does glitter duster work with colored rock? Yes, I mentioned that. It works with these. This is the same as that, because this didn't change at all other than the color. So yeah, you could absolutely dust with it. You'll need to then have a whole fleet of dusters. You could change it out because it doesn't stain this. So if you wanted to, maybe for the holiday season, you wanted to do green and you only had one, then definitely, because it won't contaminate it because the inks are all dry in there. But yes, it will do either the clear or the color. Okay, so when you go to use glue, a liquid glue, my advice to you would be, especially if you're going to work from your jar, is to take some and just put it onto a nonstick surface. Don't go back in, because once we touch that tree, even though you saw me dry that tree, the inks we use, the distress stain, is water reactive. So this is a water-based glue. So there's going to be color that comes off, which means that I need to apply this on the clean part first. That means I'm going to take my collage medium and I'm going to start at the top. You'll see why in just a second, where there is no color. Okay, so right now it's clear. But now when I go in and I start putting this onto the orange, I don't want to go up into the white, because there's orange on my finger. because that little bit of glue, and all I'm doing is just kind of dabbing. Some people, you know, pet it. Just remember, if you're wearing glasses, if you start doing this back and forth, you're going to get little flecks of collage medium on the lens of your glasses. You may not notice that. See, I just wiped off that orange. Just wipe off your finger. You don't have to go into any water at this point. But yeah, you'll get little flecks of collage medium on your glasses. So I just do more of like a dabbing motion, kind of spin it around. This is another reason why I think I prefer collage medium. It does give me a longer open time to put the glitter on over glossy accents. But again, whatever works. Now I'm just going to clean that off my fingers while it's wet. I've got my towel just to dry off my hands. So see, it's gone. And then we're going to dust it. So I don't know if you can, I'm trying to get a great camera angle, but that's not really working. Here we go. Can you see it, Mario?
I can see it.
Okay, I'm just trying to show you the dusting. I don't know if that's working. Because if I don't, then it's going to go everywhere. Anyway, I'm just dusting, turning around. Yeah, it doesn't poof a lot of air, so it's not going to dry it, but you see I'm pushing like all the way down each time because I want to make sure that those little kickstands open. All right. And then once you're happy with it, which I'm totally happy with it, this is going to dry clear. So any place that you see, like maybe right there, you see that little white bit of collage medium, it's going to dry clear. But what's nice is you can see that it's really very faint sparkly versus heavy sparkle. Again, no right or wrong, just whatever you want. So we're going to just let that dry. So that's a fun thing about applying the glitter, pouring it on or dusting it. Either way works. So I'll put these back in there. Can I hand you that?
Sure.
Thanks. So that can dry. Mario probably has a drying station set up somewhere. Do you? Yeah. That's good. And then, like I said, this glitter, this extra, so see, it didn't even put out a lot of glitter, but enough that it's worth saving. It can go back into the jar. Okay, and then you would just go back with the collage medium. That's the whole thing, that when it comes to working with this stuff, the glitter doesn't become airborne. So you see when I was kind of doing that, the air was pushing the glitter, but the glitter was not flying up. That's why I was trying to get the angle to show it to you, because you would think with a glitter duster, and you could dust other glitters with this, but if you do other glitters, often they just become airborne. They go everywhere. And that's the thing about rock candy. You can dust it out, but it just falls down, which is nice. So there you go. Let's clean that up. Just going to use a little bit of water and just clean up that collage medium. So you can see that a lot of these things that I'm sharing with you, you know, the tinting of the bubbles, the trees, all of those things are things that I would suggest doing compartmental, where you sit down, you have some stuff, and you just want to play. You want to get your embellishments ready. And those are great play days on those creative block days, right? Those days that you just don't feel like doing anything, but you want to do something creative. Excellent. Go tint some glitter. Go alcohol ink some bubbles. There's this. All right. So I got another thing that I'm going to share with you. Still have time. One more thing for part one, because, and that'll get us into part two. There are things in our everyday world that I think are often overlooked. And as a maker, when you see it, you're like, my word, the stuff that I would spend on embellishments is crazy. These have been an Idea-ology for years. Every year I have a campaign to try to keep them. This year is no different, because every year Advantis wants to retire these because they don't sell a lot, because you get a lot in the package. That's the problem. I think it's because, but it's a great value. So these are called Bouquet, and what they are, they're paper flowers. And if you're a vintage person and you love like little millinery flowers, you can buy these vintage, and they're very expensive. And we actually searched for years to try to have someone manufacture paper flowers for us that were wired, because we wanted them just like vintage flowers. The beauty of Bouquet is that as a maker, you can color your flowers to be any color you want them to be. And you can do them by the bunch, because this is how they are. There's actually 5 bunches in a pack, 5 of these, but each of these are individually wired. So even though they have this little bit of paper tape, you can untwist it, and then you have this little bunch inside this bunch. So each of these bunches are 5. And then within this is also another little wired flower. So all of these are individually wired, but because they're paper, the petals take color, as do the stamens. So they're not plastic. And that's what was really important, because you can customize these flowers and do so many things. You can, I think sometimes you see them, you're like, I'm not going to stick them in a vase. No. You could just have like this one happens to be decayed, one of my favorites, and some frayed burlap. But you can take this, and I'm just going to pull this away because it's just paper. So you can see that I have this. Or if I was going to put them maybe even in a journal, and you wouldn't think like, oh, I couldn't put them in a journal, but you can. They're very, very small, and they could be flat. So each one also has its own little stem. So you could put these in a book, you can stitch through them, they can come out of a bottle, a jar, so many different things when it comes to working with these. But what I like about these flowers is that they could be used so many different ways. For Halloween, which I'm going to share, also for Christmas, great for spring, for Valentine's Day, or just little vintage makes, because you can add this in the hair of, say, a paper doll, any of those things. And I've seen some comments about retiring. Retiring product is not up to me. It's up to how well something sells throughout the year.
Pray for the flowers.
Yeah, we just hope that, but I think if you know how to use them, you might use them more. That's really the purpose of the demo. Because even if you're a vintage grunge person like I am, I love that I can make grungy flowers. And even if you're going to do a color, I like that you can do a whole different faded vintage look. So I'll show you how to achieve this look, because all of my flowers you'll see have some like fade, a little bit of shine, a little bit of grunge. It's a quick process. These purple ones, also cool. Aren't they great? And because they're flexible, I mean, really, you could do so many things. I think like even on the skeleton, you know, you can do a little Day of the Dead. There's so many things that you can create with flowers that maybe you don't think about them, right? You can put them in a cauldron. That'd be cool. All right, here's how it works. I'm going to open this pack because I can, and I've used them.
Buy more.
Well, I've used them. Okay, I saved the cellophane. This is good cellophane. This is the sound of good. Okay, so for this one, I'll take a group. I'll just do this one. I'll take it off the tape. Then you got to untwist. And then once you undo these, then all of these come apart. Okay, all these bunches. Okay, so here's how this one is going to work. When I do the flowers, I like to take the flowers and then kind of open these up. So I don't ink them in a bunch, I ink them more in a fan. And then I just take my finger and just kind of spread them out a little bit. I'm not getting too crazy in this because you'll go everywhere, but just that, just so you have a little bit of open space. Okay, for your colorants, you need to have some options, some choices of what it is that we want to color with. Okay, I think I'll start with, I'll start with some mica stain, because that's ultimately where I started. Let's see, what haven't we done yet? We haven't done something, I don't even know. I don't know like what Halloween color. We'll see if anybody says anything in the chat. That'll be a color that I work with. Just because I've done all the colors. Another purple. Anyone? Let's see, first thing I see, flowers. I agree, Stacy, we do. See a color yet, Mario?
Nope.
Okay, there we go.
Bright yellow.
Okay.
That was the first color.
Excellent. All right.
Bright yellow it is.
Perfect.
Thanks, Don.
So here's what we're going to do. So if I'm going to do bright yellow, what I do is I always pick a mica stain, just because I like, it adds that little bit of shine. You see that, just that little bit of shimmer? That comes from the mica stain. So my yellow, I'll do Flickering Candle. I could do Harvest Moon, but I'm going to do Flickering Candle because, well, it's a yummy color. And the fact that it's back, I'm not saving it as much. So I would pick a color, okay? Then I would pick an oxide. So that's my mica stain, my ingredients. Then I'm going to pick an oxide spray. So you can see my oxides. The oxide is what's going to add that dusty finish. So see how that looks like kind of a dusty red? That's just fired brick. And it could be whatever oxide you want to use, but all of these have a coordinating oxide. So you can see like there was a green oxide, a blue oxide. I just like to do an oxide. So I'll do a yellow. This happens to be what, maybe fossilized amber. Okay, yeah, it could be that. It could be antique linen, but you definitely want that. Then depending if you want your color, if you want your flowers to stay vivid, great. But if you want them to have a little bit of, a little depth or a little grunge, then you're going to go into, where is it? There it is, frayed burlap. Now, frayed burlap is what I would use for every color. Well, not every color. These colors with the exception of these darker ones, because reds and purples, when they get brown, they don't really show up much. So these all have frayed burlap. That would be green, yellow, orange, blue, even the decayed one. But these, because the brown really would be overwhelmed by purple and red, those I went in with a little bit of black soot. Same recipe, but I usually either use black soot or frayed burlap, depending on the color of flowers that I'm doing. Okay, and even at Christmas. So if you wanted to do them for Christmas, you could do, you know, bright red and green. These are still going to work great. I just like that they have depth to them, where they're not just a flat color. Okay, so Belinda, I agree. Frayed burlap, like with this and the oxide spray, oh gosh, this is actually a new bottle because, yeah, see, I ran out of it last night too. I go through that stuff so much. I'm just glad that you can get whatever bottles you want of it, because if that came in a set.
That's crazy talk.
It is crazy talk, but I love that. I'll throw it out there. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back to, again, our splat box. Just because when it comes to sprays, and I won't always use this. If I'm doing backgrounds, I don't use a splat box. This is just if I'm just using it just specifically for spray. Another thing, it's a good idea, is just have a glove, because it's going to, you don't have to wear a glove if you don't want to, but it's going to give you a little bit more creative play when it comes to the flowers, because you want to work them a little bit. You want to be able to kind of move that in. So before we get started, just know this. These are paper. So if you hose them, because people go, why don't you just dip them? It's paper. So if you soak it in stuff, these petals they won't disintegrate immediately, but they'll just start to kind of lose everything about their shape because you get them too wet, okay? So we're still going to get them wet, but that's why I don't like to dip them. But if you find a technique that works for you, go for it. So I'm going to start with a little water, and here's why. I got all my stuff laying on the side because I want my pigments to mix first. By adding a little bit of water first, it's going to allow the dyes to flow on contact. And we talk about this whenever we do any kind of backgrounds, that if you spray inks on dry paper, that it just absorbs. It's same thing with a paper flower. If we just start with color, wherever that spray hits, it's going to be really hard to get it to blend. So a little bit of water is going to be my first thing. It doesn't matter whether you go with oxide or mica stain. I like to start with mica stain because this is where my color is coming from. Because mica stain is going to be my pearl and my dye. So this is where the color of the flower comes into play. And I just want to make sure that all that sludge is mixed up before I get going. So you can shake it up, you can ring it like a bell, whatever works. Same with an oxide. Ring it like a bell, shake it up and down. Want to get that sludge broken up. Okay, stains don't need to be shaken. Okay, so now we're ready to go. I'm still going to keep them on their sides because that keeps the pigment from settling, especially if you're doing other things, because we might go back and forth. And that's why I have them labeled so I know which is which. And here we go. So we'll start by just taking a little bit of water, spray both sides. So just some water. Then we're going to take the mica stain, spray, spray. And again, that's where our color is coming from. So see, I still have some white space. That's fine. Then we're going to take oxide. And this is where we just go in a couple of areas. So not the whole thing, just a couple. There we are. So far, so good. And this is where, because I've got so much ink on my gloves, I can use that ink to get inside any flowers that didn't take color. This will keep me from soaking them, but also it opens them up even more now that they have a little color. And I embrace the space. If you have a little bit of white space, it's still going to be okay. And then for a little vintage vibe, I'm going to keep my distance on this one. So remember before I was kind of close. This, I want the ink to kind of fall onto that. So just using some frayed burlap, I'm just going to spray. You can see just that little bit of splatter. There we go. Just a little bit. See that? Just that little bit of brown. And you can make these honestly as vintage as you want. I know you said bright yellow, and I'll keep half of it bright yellow. How about that? Good compromise. Look at those. Beautiful. So we're going to let this dry because it's going to totally change the dynamic when it's dry. The oxide will oxidize, the mica will become shiny, and the brown will become darker. So you can't really judge these in this state because they kind of just look a little matte. Oh, there's an untouched flower. We're going to get into that. There we go. Add a little bit of that. And if I do that, I go in same thing, just a little bit of oxide, and you can just dip off of your glove. There we go. So yes, you can see that side's got a little bit brown. I did that. That's a little brighter. We're going to let it dry because that's where really everything changes. You get the shine. Could you heat these? Yes, they are heat stable, but like with most things that are dimensional, if you can let it air dry, they just take on a whole different life of their own. They get a little crunchier. Where petals touch each other, they seem to transfer the dye a little bit. So it's quite fun. And when I did these flowers, I just did them all. You know, because if you got the glove on and you got this, you just go into flower mode and you make them. And if you don't want to do an entire bunch of a color, just split them off into smaller bunches. And even when you're spraying them, like you can split them like this without even taking them apart. And you can say, okay, these are going to be blue grungy. These will be a different color blue. You don't have to take everything apart while you're making them. But it's a fun way to create flowers, especially for Halloween. Because believe it or not, the flowers are very cool for crypts to go around, coffins to go around, skeleton heads, especially for Day of the Dead, but even the ability to create like a forgotten garden, you know, decayed flowers. So imagine taking some of these. Let me cap these up real quick. There's that. Move this out of the way. But yeah, imagine taking this and, you know, going back to our little cup of trinkets. You could have a gate. Maybe you have a Gothic gate that's going to go into a make, and then maybe you're going to have some of these that wind around the gate. I don't know, or maybe they're going to come out from an urn. And I know Tammy B has like snapped the urn to where you have like, you know, maybe you want a broken urn. There we go. So you can just have that like on its side, and you can have the flowers spilling out. There's a lot of different ideas. If you're going to do toadstools, you know, that's a cool way that you can add some little flowers on the base of a toadstool on a make. If you're going to do a cemetery, maybe you have a little headstone. Look at that. Some purple flowers around there. See, there's a lot of ideas where you wouldn't normally look at that bouquet flower for an everyday product and think Halloween, where you're like, come on, that's a stretch. But the reality is it's not a stretch at all. It's about understanding that big bright pack of white flowers could be so many things for so many seasons, Halloween being one of them, because it's the perfect scale for everything Idea-ology. That's why we did them. But we wanted to do them in such a way where, you know, if you just got one bunch, well, besides that would just be ridiculous. You'd be so addicted to coloring them that there's not enough in the pack. So that's what that beautiful pack of flowers could do. Could you glitter these? Because of course we've been in rock candy mode. You know it. What would you do? Well, gosh, you could do whatever. You could do resist spray like we did on one, or you could do a little bit of collage medium and glossy accents. Now that you understand your options, I mean, really, you could glitter the world, especially with color glitter, which I might glitter a couple of those for in the next session. But that was good fun.